Salute. Salute Knicks Nation. Welcome in to the season report on the streets. Buzzing. Hope you're doing well and glad you could join me, man. This one's going to be a big show today. Looking forward to it. The dust has settled on the 23-24 season, man. My heart is still hurting, but I'm excited about the future, man. I'm excited about this team. Right, let's talk about it. Right, let's recap this season, give out our thoughts on each player. We'll go through it, man. Live stream action here. I'm going to do a lot of timestamps so that replay squad, you can lock in and catch up with each segment from this show. But we're going to go through the season report, swish or dish, fam. Keep the player or move them along and see what you can get, fam. As well, we're going to talk about future targets this offseason and beyond. We'll go through the free agency tracker as well. And, of course, draft talk, fam, as well. I'll go through my needs and what the Knicks should look for to get in this upcoming NBA draft with the 3 draft picks that we currently have as well and what the Knicks might do, man. But a lot of action this offseason, man. It's going to be buzzing and it's going to be extensions. It's going to be talks about free agency as well. And strap yourself in, man. This one is going to be big, right? But we're going to, give the autopsy on the season, of course, as the dust has settled, man, like I said. And welcome in, everyone. Appreciate you for buzzing with us. Smash that like button. Knicks Nation, man. What a season it's been, man. There's been a lot of talk over this, was this season a success or not, right? It's up to each fan, each individual, right, to look at this season how you want to look at it. As a player, for example, Jalen Brunson, right? He's the leader, he's the captain. He's been in the league for a minute, right? No surprise that he said this season wasn't a success for him because ultimately his goal is to win the NBA championship. That I understand. But from an organizational standpoint as well, you got different goals, right? Your number one goal is to win a championship, most def. But that's not the only goal, right? If you achieve other goals, the season can still be a success for them. As fans, individually, myself, I look at this season like it was a success to a certain extent, right? I didn't expect to win the Larry O'Brien this season, of course, but I did feel like we got closer to winning the Larry O'Brien, right? We came within 9 wins of Larry O'Brien, right? Some people might look at rounds. We made the second round again. We failed to get out of the second round. I like to break it down in terms of wins, right? We took steps. We held home court in round 1 and round 2, right up until the final buzzer of Game 7, fam. But we got within 9 wins of the Larry O'Brien, right? And given the roster, given the injuries, given we didn't really expect to win the Larry O'Brien as well, I think this season's been a success for the organization. But the work has got to continue, fam, and there is a lot of work to be done. We've got to keep building. Teams continue to improve, and no doubt, I think Leon Rose and the front office, man, have already been preparing for what is going to be such a huge off-season as well. Just Knicks, Dirty Dancer in the building. The chat comes through, man. I hope you guys are doing well, and how are you feeling now? It's been a couple days. Obviously, some thoughts on last night, man. Indiana choked. There's no other way to say that, fam. Should have fouled, but obviously Jalen Brown hit the huge shot as well. That's what we dealt with when we're talking about Andrew Nembhard, and the luck that you need to continue, fam. But a lot of things will be learnt from the Knicks run, right? And in terms of, taking steps to win a championship, it doesn't happen overnight, right? You look at Denver, they had to suffer playoff pain to get to where they were and win the championship. Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, right? They had to suffer some playoff pain to get to the top of the mountain as well. And I think the Knicks will learn from this playoff run. They went through the trenches as well, and obviously the injuries were the number one thing that held us back. Outside of that, we could definitely be thinking about, the Knicks were good enough to be in an NBA Finals. But obviously some young players would have, gained a lot from the experience as well. And look, we were the better team. We fell short. But this is all what we're going to talk about today and tonight, about how we can improve, from the coaching, the front office and top to bottom, fam. Dirty Dancer says, I'll give CT an A. Appreciate you for that, fam. Just your presence is enough, and interacting all season long. I really, really appreciate everyone that's followed along and enjoyed the content, fam, as well. There's plenty more to come, as well as a lot of guests this off-season. Draft gurus as well. I'm excited that we actually have draft picks this year as well, because, roster building could come full circle. We've got the big dogs at the top, and now we might need some good, draft talent to really help this roster move along. Some youthful enthusiasm as well. And look, you can learn a lot from your competitors as well. I thought Indiana, what helped them was obviously drafting a lot of depth, trading for depth and getting a lot of that young talent. That did help them get to the Eastern Conference Finals as well. And that's something the Knicks can learn from as well, and using some of that young talent. What's up, David M? Salute. So yeah, let's quickly recap what we're going to do today as well. And like I said before, timestamps for replay squad. This is going to be a big one, but we'll go through the off-season guide. Before we do we'll do the reports and a Swish or Dish and a season recap, and then we'll do a little off-season guide look ahead. But obviously the Knicks have got to look out their own free agents. Hart, OG Anunoby, man, a lot of conversations have been had over the last few days over that. Look forward to getting your thoughts, and I'll give you mine. Extensions, obviously Brunson at the top, Tom Thibodeau, look out for those to happen as well. Draft needs, size, and of course other talent as well. I'll talk about that tonight as well. Exploring potential trades as well. Bojan Bogdanovic, obviously the salary cap, and Brock Aller and the front office have got a lot of work to do with that. Mitchie's salary as well. Those two combined is enough to get you a max salary player in terms of a trade. In terms of pieces, right? We'll talk about it tonight, but my opinion is to keep Julius Randle. Obviously, the fan base can be divided on that, and you see what's out there as well. You never say no to an offer you can't refuse. However, I see the organization keeping Julius Randle. I think he's a key piece. The salary right now is solid. Obviously, the future is another story, and that is for another day. But Julius Randle will be extension eligible after next season. What do the Knicks do? And of course, the most important thing is filling this roster with depth. That's going to be a real key to this offseason, as we fell short with bodies, fam. And if we are going to rock with Tibbs, obviously there's no surprise that we're going to need more people that he trusts, continue to build along this culture that we have built with that. So without further ado, welcome Sherwin, Jet Life, salute. What's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. And Knicks Nation, man, what a season it's been. As we also take a quick look at some of the draft needs, the Knicks will have picks 24, 25, and pick 38, which is a sneaky good pick. Obviously, we found Deuce McBride, 36. We found Rokas. We'll see if he comes along in our summer league. But look, those picks 24, 25, that can either get you some good wing depth. It can get you some positional needs, some size, and it can also help you get up in the draft if the Knicks want to package those two to move up. Of course, we could also, send them out and make a huge draft night trade as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well, but we will talk about that more. Rest assured, fam, as well. Some of the names being discussed right now before we dive into the season report, fam. You know the names. Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, Anthony Davis potentially could be on the move. Mikal Bridges isn't settled in Brooklyn. DeMar DeRozan is a name being talked about as well, who's a free agent. You got your minor moves, Bruce Brown, Gordon Hayward, Valanciunas, potentially Kelly Oubre is on the move as well as a free agent as well. We'll talk about all the names and some, but that'll be a more of a bigger dive in the next show we do later in the week too. But without further ado, man, Swish or Dish, fam, and we'll go through each player, and I want to talk about what they contributed this season, give them their flowers, shout you guys out, get your thoughts on each player and what they did for the Knicks this season as well, and what the future may hold for them. Of course, we'll start at the very, very top, guys. And of course, Jalen Brunson, fam, as the NBA awards kick off right now, we're about to find out which All-NBA team that JB has made as well. I think there's a good chance he'll make first team, but probably more likely second team. We know the NBA is competitive. We know these votes, they could go either way. But regardless what he means to this organization, man, it was solidified coming into this season already based off what he showed last season. For me, obviously, he achieved a lot this season that says that he can be the 1A, right? Win a championship with this guy as the best player. I don't think there's any doubt, right? If you are a top 5 MVP candidate, that's a great metric to gauge whether or not, you could be the lead dog on a championship squad. But of course, if you can make first or second team All-NBA, then that just further solidifies, right? But what we do around Jalen Brunson is going to obviously contribute largely to the success of him and the team, right? If he is your 1A, then what have you got around him, right? You got to complement that, right? Obviously, his shortcomings is size. We saw what happened in the playoffs, fam. When they take the ball out of his hands, when the refs bug, and they allow extra physicality, all of those things can hurt JB as well. So that's going to be, essential to building around him with extra positional size, right? And we'll talk about obviously Devo being 6'4", Hart being 6'4" as well, and how important OG Anunoby is as well. But welcome in, guys. Salute. Get on my level. What's up? Great to see you guys. Chris, welcome in. Dirty says 25 has been a good spot for the New York Knicks. 100%. I think in a draft where it's very, very even, but obviously people are saying it's very shallow, but I think the Knicks scouts can really get busy, and hopefully find some needs as well. It's not so much reaching for the stars, I think, in this draft. It's trying to find players that can really fit what this squad is. Because look, let's face it, we're one game away from being in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we don't need necessarily to find, try to find the player with the highest upside. It could be the player that tries to help us the most with this one as well. And I'm with you on the Bruce Brown thing as well. Obviously, it's very, very early, and I just slapped together a few names. But, where there's links with the New York Knicks formally, I'll try to, bring those names up a little bit more as well. We know Tibbs is a huge fan of that. A lot of people asking for Bill Daughtry. Appreciate you guys for enjoying the last show we did last week. Bill's enjoying retirement. He's got a lot of things on with family and things, but we'll get Bill on. We'll get Bill on pretty soon. We'll let the dust settle a little bit more. We'll let the draft night pop and all of those things, and we'll get Bill. But we've got lots of guests coming up too, fam. But look, as we go one by one, man, Jalen Brunson. What needs to be said that hasn't been said already? Obviously, I'll start by saying that, further to the thought before, right, complimenting this man. We know what he can do. The league now knows what Jalen Brunson can do, and my God, is he put himself among the elites of the current game, but also formally, New York Knicks solidified his standing with the organization. Obviously, he's about to turn 28, heading into next season. A couple years left before JB turns 30. The next few years are going to be essential, and how we play as a team. Obviously, he did have to do a lot of the scoring, a little too much dribbling at times, a little too much playmaking, because there was nobody else, really, with the injuries to Julius Randle. Deuce McBride obviously ascended offensively this season, which was amazing. But Jalen Brunson needs, more help around him. Playmaking, creating, and scoring as well. But I'll talk about that with the draft and free agency. But yeah, we don't want to wear Jalen Brunson down, right? Obviously, we've still got 5, 6, 7 years of his peak prime, and he's getting better. So that's the great thing to look forward to. Now the extension talk. let's dive into that, because there's been a lot of talk over why would Jalen Brunson want to extend early, right? He can be extended for 150 something, a 4-year, 150 mil. You know, but if he wasn't to extend and he was to ride it out till the end of the contract, he would be eligible for a 270 max deal, right? Well, there's a few things. There's two things that stand out to me. Is that one, JB want to make sure that his deal can end sooner, so that when he's still in his prime, when the TV rights come in, he can get an even bigger deal for the next one as well. So the sooner he signs this current extension will be the sooner that that deal ends, and that he'll be 31, 32. And my God, that next deal is going to be, north of 80 mil, probably as talk, intensifies over some of the future, salaries being north of 100 mil, possibly with the, the new TV deal, all of that stuff. So this is a smart man. He knows what's up. But the second thing is maybe, and this is the first factor for Jalen, is that, for the team to be successful, you can't hamstring the team necessarily. You need to give or help the team with some sort of flexibility as well. Now, Jalen Brunson's a leader, but he doesn't necessarily want to be the number one usage guy all the time. He's never said that he wants to be the number one scorer all the time. So I think his mindset is like, okay, how can I, get security, but how can I also help the organization, do better and continue to build to being a winning team, right? And look, actions speak louder than words. If he accepts this early extension, that'll be those actions. Dirty says championship window wide open next year with health and intelligent maneuvering. Spot on, man. Obviously, other teams are getting better as well. And yeah, you really got to be intelligent. Like you said, that's the one. Sherwin wants to get Drummond, Kelly Oubre as free agents. Yeah, we'll talk about Kelly Oubre. Drummond could be a sneaky pickup as well for some size and some depth as well. We know Tibbs loves the rebounding and he loves the wing defense as well. Michael Drake, no need to apologize. Glad you could join us as well. Once again, salute replay squad to Mikal Bridges. A lot of talk about him as well, fam. The Villanova culture connection too. So yeah, as we continue to give love to JB for the season, man, hopefully he gets first team All-NBA. You guys might hear first as I'm streaming live right now. The announcement's about to hit any minute. But it's all about, the role for Jalen Brunson to play on this team, right? For us to win a championship, does he need to have the usage that we saw this postseason? No, right? To me, that is not the ideal way. Obviously, he's the best scorer on the team, currently constructed, past playoffs. But obviously, if Julius Randle's back and he's in this team, he's healthy, those two were really playing well off of each other, and I feel like the chemistry with those was building this season. I think that plays a key part in why I think Julius will stay and should stay for the minute. And we'll talk about that when we get to Julius. But obviously Brunson, he wants to make sure that, he can continue to lead this team and be successful, but also play the right way, play the right roles as well. His assisting numbers were better this season. Obviously the scoring went to another level because that's how he had to adjust, and he had to give this team what it needed, right? And look, his defense took a step up as well. Obviously in the playoffs, the last few games, no doubt were a disappointment, but I feel like mostly that was due to either the foot, he was just completely gassed as well with all the energy exerted from the first round as well. Because let's not forget that first round was huge, in terms of how physical and how tight it was as well. What's also helped me sort of deal with what happened in the second round with Indiana is I'm looking at it like the series were reversed, Pretend that we beat Indiana in the first round in 6 games. It took a lot out of us. And then pretend that we ultimately fell short in the second round against like a Philly in 7. Because, it was basically in the other way, it was in reverse. But because the Philly series took so much out of the New York Knicks, they had less in the tank for that second round, as well as the injuries and all of that. And by the way, Tibbs ain't on this graphic, but we will, of course, talk about Tom Thibodeau after all the players, and we'll talk about Leon as well, and what Tibbs needs to help and adjust with this one. But there's no doubt Jalen's shortcomings is his size, right? But his defense, his aptitude was great this season. But obviously around him, it's going to be great to stock up the wing depth and also some extra playmaking and some scoring, right? It's key that, Jalen Brunson, as we say with his usage, doesn't exceed, this is obvious, but doesn't exceed 40 minutes in the regular season, right? Deuce McBride, I think he's going to grow as a player as well. And I think he's going to be probably averaging 20 to 25 minutes at least throughout the regular season next season, right? And that should be more than enough, right, to make sure that Jalen doesn't have to play more than 36, 37 a night, right? And that is key to, preserving a long, fruitful career for JB, right? Obviously, Jalen was top 5 MVP. To me, what was his top accolade for the season? Well, he had so many Player of the Weeks. I think he had at least one Player of the Month, Eastern Conference. Obviously, he was a first-time All-Star as well, so we salute that. Ticking the boxes, man, in this young man's career right now. Obviously, all the scoring accolades that he achieved. We did talk about that as they happened. But look, Jalen is, a player that's set to be, one of the greatest Knicks of all time, right? If he's not right now, the fact that he's only 27, going on 28, right? And, on the trajectory that he's on, he's going to go down as one of the greatest Knicks of all time, right? If not the greatest Knick. Obviously, the championships will have to come for him to, surpass a Clyde, Willis Reed, and etc. But, the future is in bright, the future is in great hands with this man, right? And what a season. And look, if that extension goes through early, to me it makes a lot of sense for those two reasons I said. But if it actually happens, actions speak louder than words, man. And this guy is he's everything that New York wants, everything that New York City needs, and the New York Knicks organization, man. We are lucky, we're blessed to have this man as well. His attitude, his mindset is elite. Talking about how he feels like it wasn't a success, although I disagree from an organizational standpoint. But from a player standpoint, I'm okay with what he said. It's championship or bust for him mindset-wise as well. But the rest of the roster did take steps. And as I said before, 9 wins within the championship, the organization took steps forward as well, guys. David says Philly series took a lot out of us. Yeah, and JB, you said it. It really did. That's why I like to look at it like it was in reverse. We used up all our energy, pretend that we beat Indiana in the first round, fast-paced team, and then we ultimately, came up against, a team in the second round that, we didn't have enough gas. That's just the way I look at it. But unfortunately, Philly had their injuries. They finished 7th. That took a lot out of the New York Knicks, obviously without Randle. Dirty says 5th in MVP voting, but second team BS. So it looks like Jalen is going to make second team All-NBA as Draymond is announcing it. Yeah, I think that'll be more fuel for him as well, another goal to achieve for next season. But this season was great in terms of All-Star. He's going to get an extension, looks like, and also, All-NBA too. But look, of course, second round, for him, it's a step back. He made the Western Conference Finals with Luka 2 years ago. Last season, second round. This season, second round as well. So when you look at it like that, I'm really not shocked that Jalen looks at this season like it was not a success. Because, yeah, he made the third round in the West before, coming along to the New York Knicks, but becoming an All-Star for the first time in Knicks Nation as well. But big-time season for JB, grew in terms of how he handled the spotlight as well. Like, there was a lot more spotlight on Jalen this season, having to carry a team without a Julius, without some other guys. RJ quickly getting traded. There was a lot of mini, hurdles and storms to overcome this season, but Jalen always kept heady, he kept his head up. He kept optimistic as well, and he handled all the questions and all the media commitments as well perfectly as well. And of course, his play on the court did the talking. But before we move on to the next man, just a little bit more about the X's and O's, right? Obviously, ideally, I don't want Jalen to be, taking up the usage that he did. To win a championship, you need more help, no doubt about it. But look, the assist numbers were there; they were encouraging. Although in the playoffs it was different circumstance. But how he worked off of Julius for that month of January is a great sample that I'm going to go with this offseason, and I'm optimistic that we're going to come back. We're going to be a 50-55 win season again. Obviously, with outside noise and other acquisitions, we don't know yet, draft picks, etc. But just this team that we see right now, if that came back, no doubt we'd be a 50-win, 55-win team and vying for the top seed right now. We see what Boston looks like without Kristaps Porzingis, right? Let another team deal with some injuries and see how they overcome that as well, right? Boston didn't even lose a singular piece, basically outside of KP, right? How many of these teams in the East can sustain losing a Julius, a Mitch, an OG, a Bogey, and still be on, coming out with the second seed, right? So now the goal is, the first seed. That is my goal. I think that'll be the players' goal, right? Try to top the East next season, right? And I know it's a high achievement, but based on what we achieved, right, it's realistic. Now, I think that is really now something that we can aim for too, fam. So, Jalen Brunson, man, you are a legend already in my eyes. I salute you, right? It's a big swish, right, of course, as well, as we play Swish and Dish. Now, we move along, and we'll go in the order of the rotation right now as well. So, we're not going to talk about Julius Randle just yet, right? Obviously, I want to save a lot of that and a lot of talk and get your opinions on Julius and the season that was. But obviously the next guy up in terms of the rotation, your starting shooting guard, Donte DiVincenzo, the big ragu. Man, first year in New York City, and my God, it was gritty, and it was pretty as well. Donte, what a season, man. You stepped up in ways that your career hasn't, gone yet. Obviously, you played good roles on championship teams, but they were just more, complementary roles, right? This year, you showed that you can really step in when needed to an alpha role in terms of, secondary scorer, primary scorer at times as well. You adapted to the city, the team, right? You displayed toughness in the playoffs as well. You displayed durability as well. All the things we love to see. And not only that, you did that on the salary that you took as well. And look, that was a market value salary at the time. But the moment the season started, the market value on your deal obviously is underpaid right now. But, the Knicks showed you that commitment, and you took it. 4 years, no player options, no team options, fully guaranteed deal. And the big ragu, is absolutely amazing in terms of what he achieved this season. Broke Fournier's record for 3-point makes, 3-point attempts as well. NBA-wise, second in shooting, catch and shoot as well after Steph Curry. I said it, I think, a couple shows back, but this guy has shown that he is still growing in his career as well. And the ceiling that people might have thought on Devo isn't the case. In terms of this guy could really be, the third option maybe on a championship team, maybe sixth man of the year multiple times if he does end up back at the bench. But for now, he's my starting shooting guard coming into next season, ladies and gents, right? He's a better fit than Donovan Mitchell. If I had a choice right now and we could get Donovan Mitchell, I'm still keeping Donte DiVincenzo right now. Obviously, the salary is a number one factor with that, right? The production and the way that he complements, this current team. David says, man, Devo was huge. He basically gave you a lot of what you get from a Devin Booker, plus defense and that dog attitude as well. You said it. Absolutely. That's how I feel. He showed that he's more than just a scorer. He showed that he's more than just a shooter as well. He can put the ball on the floor. And obviously that the camaraderie, the attitude as well, and his age as well. He's 27 as well. So my God, man, he is coming into his prime. And man, DiVincenzo is here for the long haul, fam. Obviously, he's part of the Villanova trio right now. Might it become a quintet later, a quartet? We'll wait to see. But obviously, the biggest thing that surprised me was the fact that he just came up so big when we needed, with huge usage. There were nights where it was 45 minutes. There was nights where it was 35, 40 shot attempts. Well, never did I feel like, oh man, I don't want this guy shooting so much. Or never did I feel like, oh, he shouldn't be taking that shot. Every time he let it fly, I thought it's going in as well, and he reminded me a lot about J.R. Smith in terms of when he came in, and he was obviously a pleasant surprise early, outperformed his contract as well. But obviously Devo is a more well-rounded player. His defense was a huge part of his game as well. And with that said, man, it is a big swish for Donte DiVincenzo. And I said, outside of, a Devin Booker, he's got to be a starting shooting guard for next season as well. Like I said, it would be a no for a Donovan Mitchell for me personally. Love to hear what you guys think. If there was a DeMar DeRozan, potentially, then I could see DeMar DeRozan still coming off the bench. Right? But obviously there's so many different lineups. You could have DeMar at the 3 as well. But obviously, look, DiVincenzo, whether he's a sixth man of the year or he's our starting shooting guard, he's going to be around. He's going to be around for a long, long time as well. The only down-the-track scenario I could see where DiVincenzo maybe moves is if it's a blockbuster deal. And, you're talking about, top 10 player in the league, right? And the other team doesn't do the deal unless DiVincenzo is in that deal. But in terms of culture, production, salary, all of those things, all of those reasons are to say no to any potential trade for this man as well. But like David said, how huge was DiVincenzo? Congratulations to him for the records he broke, and obviously the playoffs. I mean, how many big shots did he hit? So he kind of dispelled most of that notion that he doesn't show up in the playoffs, really. Yes, he had a couple down games, but obviously the usage, he's a player that's really a role player that we were playing outside of his role, unexpectedly. But he showed that he's capable now, and that's something that we can really learn from this season as well. But if there is one shortcoming, obviously we go back to why we need positional size, fam. Devo 6'4", some say 6'3", but he's strong enough, he's tough enough to guard ones, twos, and threes. But really, we obviously need to make sure that we get more size at the wing spot as well. Hart's more than likely going to be back at the bench. If OG's here, he's at the 3, so that automatically adds that extra size. LB says, I feel that we could get Bridges without trading a Randle, especially if a 3-way trade is involved with Cleveland, with Brooklyn wanting Mitchell as well. I understand why Mikal Bridges is one of the top targets, and quite frankly, I'd love to get him in as well, but I don't see it as very likely. I think Brooklyn trading with the Knicks, maybe the only way it happens is what you mentioned, if they're getting a Donovan Mitchell back, maybe that's the only reason to trade, or be part of a trade with their crosstown rival. But with that said, look, I'm really more than happy with DiVincenzo to be our starting shooting guard next season. And I go back to the point I said before, can he grow as a player and get even better? No doubt. I think that he can, right? This season was a big eye-opener for him, obviously, as well. Big playoff run, and more yet to come, too. So, massive shout-out and a huge swish for Donte, the big ragu, fam. And look, I think he had a child as well, so congratulations to him, man. His life has changed for the better, and he embraced the crowd. He embraced New York City, always referred to us as the best fan base, the Mecca. This is the reason why he chose to come here as well. And look, he's built here for the long haul. He's going to be part of that big championship run, I think, that we get to. So without further ado, man, we move along to the next guy who was acquired last season. Man, Josh Hart. What a season for Josh Hart, man. Definitely going to need your help in terms of coming up with perspective on the season with Hart. I said throughout the regular season that he's a player whose value most shows in the playoffs. And we saw last season against Cleveland, hit big shots, looked confident in the moment, wasn't shook. And in terms of regular season wins, obviously we went on a huge run last season as well. But what Hart has showed this season is more everything else. He became a true glue guy, a pillar of the team. He embodied the toughness as well. Arguably the toughest player on the team. I mean, I don't know how many players, would have played with an abdominal strain, let alone 35 minutes. Literally, his teammates know that he's always got their back. And he, and one guy said, his leg's not falling off. I expect him to play. So that tells you what the teammates think of Hart and, and how he shows up, when he's needed most. The first thing that Josh should be the most proud of as well is he played out of position this season, right? He was asked to play, in a state where, the four goes down, Randle, and he had to step up. He had to guard Siakams. He had to guard, different guys, LeBrons at times. He had to guard so many, big men, and that's not his role. So I think Hart should be looking forward to a more normal season next season. I mean, if we haven't got more positional size, then we've failed this offseason. So Hart should definitely go back to, being a backup 3, backup 2, right? Obviously, his rebounding at that position is elite. His rebounding in the power forward position is still elite. But yeah, going back to his normal role next season, it's going to be amazing to see. He worked on his 3-point shot after the All-Star break. That was a tick, I think, for the second part of the season. He hit some big shots. He wasn't really a liability being out there as well. He did hesitate a couple times, but for the most part, he was ready and willing to shoot the big shot that he was unwilling to kind of take last postseason. But in terms of Hart's overall game, right, defensively fits in great. Moving forward, big piece. Obviously, no player options. 3 more years to come on the deal, or maybe 4 years actually, because the extension hasn't kicked in yet. So another 4 more years of Josh Hart, man. Sign me up, right? The best role player in the NBA, a swish for Lion Hart, Josh Hart. Michael says, CT, I believe we need a center that can shoot from the 3. You're reading my mind, man. We will talk about that as we go along too, fam. Like I said, I think this is going to be a big show, as I said. And for those rocking out with us live right now, you guys are buzzing. And our replay squad, there'll be timestamps as well, so you guys can go through the talk from tonight, fam. But we're debriefing on the season autopsy, and going through what the Knicks need to do, right, to keep this run going longer, fam, so that we're still playing next season at this time. But the foundations have been laid. Brunson, Devo, and Josh Hart, fam, as well. With Hart going back to his normal bench role next season, right? That is going to be perfect, man. Absolutely perfect. Ideal. Because, let's face it, he's not really a starting 3. He's not really a starting 4. But when you need that from him, he'll do it. And he'll do it great. He'll step into that role, right? There were so many times where he could have complained, or other players may have complained, but he talked his talk, he walked his walk as well, right? He backed Tibbs as well. He's another Tibbs guy. And if we're talking a long list of great pickups, right? How many of these pickups have been elite in terms of over the course of the franchise? When you're talking about Brunson, Devo, and you're talking about Josh Hart, right? Those guys are up there with some of the best acquisitions and trades in franchise history so far, in my opinion. Now, is Hart going to come back a different player next season? Is there anything that he can continue to work on or grow? I guess, look, 3-point shooting. I think some players can still grow that later into their careers. Jason Kidd is an example. Steve Nash is an example as well. Those guys were a minus 3-point shooter, but when they put in the work, the results came. I think if Hart does that, a lot of that in the off-season, practice his free throws, practice the 3-point shot, that is going to be great. If he can come back a 37% 3-point shooter, man, catch and shoot, that is going to do wonders for this team moving forward, fam. So we have the official confirmation right now happening live. AP in the building. Salute, guys. Jalen Brunson, the captain, has made the All-NBA second team, fam. As we predicted just before, salute to him. And huge congratulations. Disappointing he didn't get the first team, but I was kind of prepared for this. First-time All-Star as well. And look, it's all steps. He's young in his career as well. To be a first-team All-NBA, you're in the top 5 players in the season. Obviously, he was top 5 MVP, so that is something to go with as well. Leon came in 4th, it appears, as well, for executive. Okay. Should have been higher than that, no doubt. Should have been higher, I feel. But we'll see what happens as the chat lets us know who else came in the first team All-NBA. But we're reacting live to the news that Jalen Brunson has made the second team All-NBA. And look, it's something to still be really proud of. I felt like he's deserving of the first team, no doubt. But obviously, there's some other talented guys out there as well. But another tool to use as motivation for Brunson, right? He's been slighted his whole career as well. And he's been proven doubters wrong ever since he got into the league, fam. And will continue to as well. But there's no I in team, and Jalen Brunson is all about team, man. He doesn't really like talking about these individual accolades, right? It's something he said he will look back on when his career is done. No doubt he will look at that. But when a player is so young in their prime and they're gunning, all they want to do is win their first championship. Man, get that out of the way, because the pressure continues to grow. When you're young, you're gunning, you're buzzing, and you're not winning a championship. That's what fuels a player right now as well. These accolades are cool for you and I, for the organization. But JB wants to win a championship first and foremost, right? He said this season wasn't a success for him as well. But he will look back when his playing days are done, fam. But moving forward, the squad around JB is critical. Devo, a swish. Josh Hart, Lion Hart, a huge swish on the season, fam. I'll say Devo exceeded my expectations. So that was just a wild, crazy pickup. But Josh Hart, after what we saw last season, nothing really surprised me this season as well. Obviously, it was all positive. Positional size, though, again, that is the shortcoming. But Hart back to his normal role off the bench, and we're on our way, fam. We're on our way to really cause a lot of headaches deep into the playoffs moving ahead. Now, the next guy we'll talk about, OG Anunoby, the big pickup at the trade deadline, right? One of the biggest trades, the franchise has made in a while. The biggest trade of the Leon Rose regime as well. A monumental decision made halfway through the season or earlier back in December, man, to send out RJ Barrett, to send out Emmanuel Quickley as well, and then obviously Quentin Grimes later. We'll talk about that. But to build a squad with positional size, right? The wing position is what we needed, right? Before the season started, last season, the season before that as well. As we talk about the off-season goals, man, first and foremost is obviously Hart and OG Anunoby, free agents, right? Brunson is signed but extension eligible, and Tibbs as well. That'll happen, but that is the second order of business. The first order is OG, what to do, and Josh and obviously Isaiah. There's a lot of talk over the last few days and how the playoffs played out with OG Anunoby. There's a lot of factors that need to go in to re-signing this man, right? But the first thing you need to understand is that OG was traded for this organization, and we sent out real things. We sent out RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, and obviously, other compensations as well, a second round draft pick as well, which was a great trade, right? I graded the trade an A+ at the time, because right before that trade, right, we got smashed by Milwaukee, we got smashed by Indiana, and the Wings killed us. Oklahoma, Orlando, Paolo Banchero, and Boston. Of course, we had 5 really bad losses right around the in-season tournament, where all of the Wings on the other team killed us. Well, and this team was in quicksand. Right, it just wasn't going anywhere, and I think Leon Rose saw enough of what he saw from the Quickleys, the Barretts, to say that, look, OG Anunoby is what this team needed more than those guys. Right? Not to say that those guys weren't valuable, but I don't understand how people look at that and say we traded guys we don't think they're valuable. If anything, it's the opposite. If the other team wants those players, they have value, right? But it's all about what we needed to give up to get OG in the building, right, before he became a free agent as well. See, when he became an unrestricted free agent on the Raptors, we're up against everybody. We have to outbid them. And OG has to choose the Knicks. But once the Knicks traded for him, we obviously have his bird rights now. Obviously, OG Anunoby, we can offer him the 5 years. We can offer him more than other teams. But the second thing to consider is, after giving up pieces, if we let OG walk now as an unrestricted free agent, and I'm addressing more of those people that say he's injury prone and people that don't want to re-sign him. There's fans that are worried how much we're going to re-sign him, and there are fans that just don't want to re-sign him. Well, which I don't understand, but I'm going to address them first, because if you let OG walk, you don't get all that money back to use to add to the team as well. So we're basically over the cap. We're basically over the cap with that situation too. So, with that said, OG, it's the quickest way to lose your job as a GM. If you make a big trade for a guy and less than 6 months later, you don't keep him. So with that said, I expect OG to stay a New York Knick. Obviously, the number in terms of team building and all of that is going to be a factor, but I think OG Anunoby has shown that, right, he's a huge piece when healthy. But to counter that, obviously, we've got to add the depth that we need to this squad. And we'll talk about that with the draft and the off-season coming up after this. That is critical. I'm not going to lie. Right? Obviously, we know you can't depend on OG Anunoby to be healthy for 82 games and for maybe all of the postseason as well. But we'll talk about that with Tibbs as well, with the usage. Obviously, I feel like OG's injury was one of those injuries that can be corrected. And that is something that Tom Thibodeau, will need to, address. Playing him the four back-to-back games of his most minutes late down the season. You could look at OG and his durability at that, and you can also look at Tibbs. But you got to be cognizant of that. But you also got to understand that OG Anunoby is a piece that this team can't afford to lose. We're 26-5 with him. Unless it's kind of a like-for-like swap, and then I get it. If you're swapping OG for a player of a similar, archetype, whether it is Paul George, Mikal Bridges, someone like that, then I understand. because you're getting back what he provides. But if you're just losing him because you don't want to pay him, then I think that's just stubborn. So, look, for me, obviously OG next season, hopefully we don't need to rely on him for 40 minutes. Get a backup wing. We'll talk about Kelly Oubre's. We'll talk about Bruce Brown's. We'll talk about the draft. But get a backup wing so that OG can play, your 32 minutes a night, and rest him when needed. Understand that he's probably not going to play more than 60, 65 games based on history. There might be that outlier coming up, hopefully. But look, for me, man, it was a huge swish. Great trade. We don't win the Philly series without OG Anunoby. I mean, that's a fact. The guy guarded Joel Embiid, man, 1v1. I mean, how many wings can do that? The guy was ran amok defensively, protecting the rim as a help defender as well. And simply put, man, he's the best 3-and-D wing in the league, or one of the best. And of course, teams will be, trying to pry him away. But obviously, I expect the extension to get done. I think it'll probably be something like 30, something like that. I don't think he's definitely going to snatch every single dollar that he can get. I think Leon Rose being Leon Rose's son, CAA being his agent as well, and the fact that he did try to fight towards the end and give us something in Game 7, and also the fact that he wasn't healthy for the full season will play a factor, man, into what contract he gets. Coach in the building, what's up? With Brunson taking a cut to OG will too, CAA going to strike again. Yep. I hear you on that. I agree. I think, now, will he get a really good deal, and will it be more than some people want to pay? Yeah. But is it what he deserves? I feel like it, because obviously the deals are going up. This TV money is going to be crazy. People are going to lose their minds. Best believe that. There's going to be players earning 80, 90, 100 milli in a few seasons. And if you can lock up OG for 4 or 5 years at a 30, it's going to be a bargain later as well. Khalid, what's up? OG would not have accepted a trade and risk further injury trying to play for us for a Game 7 if he wasn't going to stick or intend to sign. Yep. Do not worry. I'm not worried at all. Yep. I'm definitely keeping OG, and I'm living with the consequences, because he's always going to be a tradable asset as well. That's the thing. Is he completely broken down like we're talking about Ben Simmons or Greg Oden? Hell no. Is he not durable? Yeah, he's not durable, but that doesn't mean he's not a trade. He's not a trade asset later if it were to become worse as well. And like I said, it's important. People need to understand, if you lock this guy up on 30 mil, it sounds like a lot now, but in 2-3 seasons, it's not. It's not going to be a lot at all. It's going to be a fraction of the salary cap as well. And look, if you're trying to build this culture, if you're trying to all be about New York, what's it going to look like if we bring a guy in, he produces, and we let him go? Man, what's that going to say to other players? Man, they're going to look at it like, oh, New York's not taking care of their guys. You know what I mean? So it's a double-edged sword with that said. And I think we can find some sneaky good pickups to back up OG as well. And like I said, to make sure that he doesn't have to play so many high minutes into the late 30s, 40 minutes as well. But as I will talk about with Tibbs later, I do think, unfortunately, OG's injury, being a soft tissue muscle injury, was a reaction to playing most likely 4 games consecutively of highest minutes that he's ever played as well. Physical exhaustion, later in the season, all of those factors came in. Obviously, now, like Buzzer's talking about with Bogey, if Bogey was healthy, OG probably wouldn't have played those 4 consecutive games of record minutes. So that is something to also consider as well when we talk about Tibbs. But for me, Bogey is a question that we'll get to, fam. I've decided my opinion on Swish or Dish. You guys tell me yours, and we shout it out. But OG is a big swish for me, and I'm keeping him. And we'll see what the numbers look like. I think it'll be reasonable as well. I don't think it's going to be 40, something like that people are freaking out. But in terms of Bogey, I like Bogey, the talent, but his age is a concern, fam. His durability is a concern as well. So I would prefer to look elsewhere as well. But if Bogey, Bogey's salary is a big factor too, in terms of that backup spot. I don't think we're going to keep Bogey to be a meaningful piece. I think if we keep him, it'll be to fill that salary spot for a minute and to trade him at a later time. Too, fam. But appreciate you guys buzzing out with us, man. What a season it was. And look, I credit Leon Rose's aggression. He deserves to finish more than fourth in the executive race, as we just revealed. But, to trade an RJ, we'll talk about the Obi trade as well, which was a disappointment. But obviously we had to do Obi a favor because he wasn't playing, and he's a CAA client. But the draft pick of Obi was more of the failure as well. Trading him to Indiana was another failure too. But with the other trades, to trade RJ and to trade quickly, those guys have bright futures in the league, and they showed little inconsistency with Toronto later in the season, but they didn't do something to show me that, man, we were wrong to do this deal, right? Some people are just always going to be RJ Barrett fans, and they're always going to be Emmanuel Quickley fans. I get that, because those guys did so much for us, but you got to give up to get, and sometimes you can't evaluate a trade until years down the line. You could give your grade on the trade now, but you can't just say, oh, it was a failure, it was a success. Sometimes you fully have to wait that little bit longer to see what happens, right? And if we let OG walk, the trade would be a complete failure, obviously. But with that said, man, OG, we don't win a round without him. He stepped up. He gives us that positional size that we really, really need this summer. A guy who can guard, obviously, all positions, but more so, he brought the physicality that Julius Randle brought when he went down. And OG Anunoby, the three-point shooting. I think his offensive skill set complements the rest of the guys, which we'll talk about. Right, you obviously got Brunson taking 30 shots a game. You're going to need some shots for DiVincenzo. I don't really want anyone to criticize OG's offensive output, because when you look at all these other guys, how many shots do you want OG taking? Right? Do you want him to take shots away from potentially Randle, potentially Paul George, or whoever the other star is? Do you want him to take shots from DiVincenzo and from Brunson? There's a clear hierarchy in terms of the offense, and OG complements that. Right? He stands in the corner, he catches and shoots, he can attack the closeout, and he can do different things. Right? He showed that he can step back, hit the mid range as well, and look, the 3-point shooting as well always needs to be respected. Buzzer says, I'm all for signing OG, but if we can get another comparable wing without the injury history, we should do that. Great point. I'm definitely for that too. But first order of business is, you give OG his contract because he's unrestricted. You need to keep him. Unless that other wing, surfaces this offseason. If it is a Mikal Bridges, then I get it. But it has to be a like-for-like swap. Even then, I'm trying to add to the team and not subtract as well. So ideally, I would love to keep OG and bring in another elite wing as well. Because, we know OG can play the 3 and the 4 and the 5 as well. But definitely you're on point about adding more wing depth to Khalil Ware, Ryan Dunn, coach. Definitely down for those guys. Down for them, man. We're going to get a good wing, I think. A wing with good upside at the 24, 25 spots as well. And before we move to the next guy, that OG ties into our draft, because we're in a position now where the Knicks can make selections at the draft based on fit. Not just trying to hunt the highest upside guy. And in terms of 24, 25, there are some guys that are going to slip, or there's an opportunity to trade up maybe as well. Obviously, the 38th pick as well. There could be a guy like a Ryan Dunn slip down the order as well. But let's say you're going to give OG the deal. He comes back as a New York Knick. It doesn't change the fact that we know he's not the most durable guy. So you should know this as a front office, and then what you do next is to make sure that you bring in adequate backup as well. I'm not talking about just scoring backup like a bogey. I'm talking about backup for the defense, backup for the rebounding and the size, the toughness as well, right? We're going to hit Alec Burks as well, but obviously I feel like there's a need for a backup shooting guard, 6'6" and above, to complement Deuce McBride off the bench. And then it goes into small forward, power forward, man, 6'8" and above, 6'10" and above, scoring, rebounding at the 3, 4, and 5 spots as well. Spoiler alert, as you see on the graphic, I don't think Precious Achiuwa is going to stick, and I wouldn't particularly give him guaranteed money to stick as well. He kind of disappointed me late in the playoffs. Was a great depth piece throughout the regular season, helped us, but he's not a player that I'm willing to spend guaranteed money on for a Precious Achiuwa as well. I'm happy to let him walk as well. So Precious Achiuwa will be a dish for me, right? He didn't do enough, right, when it counted for me to say, hey, man, I got to keep you, especially with all this other money coming down, man. So, yeah, let's talk about Andre Drummond. Let's talk about Kelly Oubre. If Anthony Davis became available, he's someone you might have to think about. Jonas Valanciunas is a free agent. Obviously the draft as well. We could find a big rebounding big. Zach Edey, I wonder if he might slip, but I doubt it. I don't think he'll slip down to 24. But yeah, Bruce Brown, another dude who can give you, wing depth. We see Denver really miss Bruce Brown right now. I know he didn't look great in Indiana. He didn't look great in Toronto. But quite frankly, he didn't want to be in those situations, right? He got traded to Toronto. Well, so any fan that evaluates a guy for not looking their best after getting traded, there's different things that go into it, fam. Obviously, he's out of the country. All of those other things, fam, as well. But getting back to the next guy, man, we obviously spent a bit of time on OG Anunoby as we needed to, because questions need to be asked and answered in terms of this off-season. But give him the money, make sure there's backup, right? See what happens, see who else is available. Because obviously, as we're going to talk about with Randle, and a potential future without him, possibly a guy like an OG Anunoby who can play multiple positions is even more valuable, as well, as we saw. And we'll talk about with Tibbs needing to lighten the load on an OG, because the thing is, Tibbs gets so excited when he gets his guys. We saw it with Hart, and we saw it with OG. When he gets these guys that he just loves to play, he just wants to play them non-stop, and because obviously it results in wins. I get it, right? But you got to think about the consequences. You've also got to think about what it does for these players. He was a free agent also, and no doubt we beat Indiana without. We beat Indiana with OG, right? The series changed completely for me after game 2, as obviously Indiana won 4 out of the last 5. They won games 3, 4, 6, and 7. Right after OG went down, we are 26-5 with OG. I mean that writes itself, fam. The series was done when OG went down, and that's the reason why I'm not keen on keeping Precious Achiuwa, because I thought, okay, we've lost OG. Precious can give us a little bit more of what he does, but obviously less scoring. But nah, man, I think Precious came up 0 for me in the playoffs, fam. And he should have been fresher as well. He didn't have mileage on him. He didn't have injuries that we know of. Well, the way he played in games 6 and 7 was a complete no-show. So in terms of offering Precious Achiuwa, though, a veteran minimum, I would say yes. Veteran minimum, different story. Guaranteed money outside of that, I would say Dish. But yeah, let's get to the next guy as well. Welcome in everyone that's just joined us as well. Salute Replay Squad. We're going through Dish or Swish. We're down to OG, fourth guy in the rotation. Free agent. Talk about you need to keep him, but make sure that there's adequate depth for this man to come back. Now, the next guy we're going to hit on. But obviously, look, once again, salute to OG. He changed our season. He helped us get 50 wins. We don't do that with Randle going down without getting OG. I love what Barrett and Quickly provided us. Was a little bit more of a scoring, playmaking punch that we obviously could have done with in the playoffs. But I think OG was that right fit that we needed for this squad. As I said earlier, we got beaten by all those wings right before the trade happened. Now, the next unrestricted free agent on this team, ladies and gentlemen, is this man. After his second year in the Mecca, Isaiah Hartenstein completely exceeded my expectations, right? When the trade was made, there was those, real, woke people, real plugged in. They were understanding that Isaiah had high upside. He's like this young guy who could give a little bit more. He's been the backup to Joker. He's been a backup. But we brought him in. We paid $8 million, 2 years, 16. Some people reacted, thought it was an overpay. But now we see the vision now. We see that Isaiah can be a starting center in the league, and he's deserving of a big bag. I think he grew as a player offensively. The playmaking is great. That's a trademark. The durability was a trademark too. He fought through Achilles soreness. He fought through, obviously other guys going down. He had to play huge minutes at times as well. He broke the offensive rebounding record, matching Moses Malone with 12 offensive rebounds. Showed up in the playoffs as well. I think he was just gassed at the end. I think Isaiah was absolutely gassed, man, because there just wasn't enough help. Obviously with Randle going down too, he had to play a lot. But look, the Achilles soreness, that's something to consider, and I think we'll talk about that needing more backup center minutes. But yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein should be our starting center, I think, come opening night, provided a big dog doesn't become available, right? Which isn't likely when we're talking about big, free agent centers available. I mean, Anthony Davis, we don't know what LA is going to do. Jonas Valanciunas, he's 32 years of age. He's a free agent as well. But, you're going to get a cheaper, better defensive version in Isaiah. But obviously no jump shot. But look, his ability to do some stuff around the bucket is enough, I think, to complement this squad. And in terms of keeping him, the Knicks can offer 4 years, 70. Roughly 4 years, 72, I think. So that's going to come out to about 16, 17. And I think he'll be happy with that. But in terms of his backup, like Buzzabita says, I think we could do with a stretch, a stretch 5. I agree. I always said I would like 2 different centers. If one guy provides rim protection and rebounding, get another guy that gives you something else, We have Isaiah, and we have Mitch, and we have Jericho Sims, we have Achiuwa. I mean, all of those guys did the same thing, basically, some to a lesser extent, but none of them provided any shooting. And that's a killer. That's a killer. And we saw Miles Turner, a once Knicks target, a once almost a Knick. I've been told that a trade almost happened between Indiana and the Knicks, 2 years ago. Leon Rose, obviously familiar with him, with being a client, CAA, friends with Julius Randle. Yeah, everyone knows Miles Turner almost got traded. And, we saw what Miles Turner can do, man. Block shots and shoot threes as well. we see how valuable Kristaps Porzingis is for Boston, man. They look like a very average Joe without him. And I think this Indiana-Boston series is very even now without KP, right? If the Knicks were fully healthy and more rested, the Knicks best believe our best path to the NBA Finals in 3 decades, I think, was right now. But we're trying to get there and we're building, man. We need to make the right moves. We need to be smart about it. So, what is Isaiah, man? Dish or swish, fam? Are you willing to pay him? Do you think he's going to leave? Do you think the Knicks get it done? Let me know what you think, man. Dish or swish for Isaiah Hartenstein? For me, all signs point to it's a swish. And Isaiah exceeded my expectations, man. I'm not going to lie. First year was good. Second year in New York City was amazing. Was great. And he showed that he's durable. We can rely on him. I mean, the toughness element is huge. Fights through everything. Block shots, assists. Increased his scoring as well. But is just missing that jump shot, fam, as well. And that's what we could look at with a backup spot. So with that said, man, pay I Hart, says David. He's a keeper. Let's get it. Knicks ran out of steam. Absolutely buzzer. I think a lot is to factor into that. Lack of depth, injuries, and also Tibbs. I think we fought so hard for the second seed, and we fought so hard in the first round that we just didn't have a lot left. And as I've done with every single guy, there is one concern with Isaiah, and that's obviously positional size. You know, I think every single guy outside of OG Anunoby in our starting lineup, and we lost OG Anunoby, was lower than their positional size. And that is the real concern. That is the reason why this draft and this offseason, we need to address positional size, fam, as well. Right? There's no shock to me. We got bullied in that final game because, you know, Indiana have got the length and they had the extra gas as well, man. As much as it hurt to talk about it after the game, right? We just looked pathetic in that final game, man. No one had any answer, any extra, pushback over Indiana's offense, right? And yeah, we need to address that, fam. But Isaiah, keep him. I think it's going to be 17 milli, something like that, for 4 years as well. And I think that's well deserved because he's shown that he can be a starting 5-man as well. But the backup is going to be integral. Coach says we can't overpay him. Literally can't pay him more than the 15, not because of the cap, but the deal we originally signed him to. Yep, that is true. The max we can offer is 4 years, 70, roughly. So that comes to just over 15, 16. But the reason I think he'll stay is because I don't see another team offering. I don't see another team offering him more than that, right? I think there's only 4 teams with decent cap space. One of them is Detroit. And again, he would have to agree to sign for them, right? If it's a couple extra $1 million, are you going to choose Detroit or are you going to choose the starting job with the New York Knicks? It's a no-brainer. The other team is Oklahoma. Oklahoma obviously could be an attraction, but Chet Holmgren, maybe played at the 4. Oklahoma, and then I think San Antonio is a team, and then I think New Orleans is a team as well. So, yeah, won't be shocked to hear teams, inquire. Maybe teams give him an offer sheet, but I just think he loves being here so much that I think it's going to be a done deal, fam, as well. But give me your thoughts about Isaiah and anyone else on this. But let's move along to Deuce McBride, fam. Shout out to OG, who is also all over Deuce's Instagram. This team's tight knit, close, all grit and no quit in terms of what they provided and showed. But OG seems to have formed a bond with Hart, with Deuce as well, putting some stuff on his Instagram as well. But The first thing I got to say about Deuce is talking about exceeding expectations, right? After last season, when Deuce played meaningful minutes in the Miami series as well, he was a non-factor in that and struggled a bit in Game 6 when the Knicks gave up the lead. I said, man, it's going to be a make or break year for Deuce McBride as a New York Knick. I could see the Knicks giving him another deal, giving him another chance, but I wasn't. I was high on his ability to continue to defend well and do all of that, but I didn't see the leap coming offensively in terms of the shot making. Still can grow as a playmaker and shot creator as well, although that's not his strong suit. So that might take some time. But what Deuce showed this season, man, is that he is a huge piece. It could be a potential 6th Man of the Year winner. Can rely on when we need. If Brunson was to miss time, he can come in, and give us 30 points, 25 points, right? The money, the shot is money. And the fight, the maturity, the growth that he showed this season was big time as well. And obviously the deal is, he's getting underpaid right now, but it's a swish for this season for Deuce Miles McBride and moving ahead. Definitely got to keep him. The only way he might get moved is if it's a blockbuster deal and you need to satisfy the other team with that. But that said, we've found our quickly replacement, in terms of being the backup guard. Now, he's not as good shot creating, but, we could talk about that this summer. That could be one of the things that this team could, unexpectedly grow, and this team gets a big boost with Deuce. Knicks ran out of steam, says Hart could get a bag elsewhere. These teams have been paying attention. Right. Most but I don't see it happening in the end because he's got to choose them. He's an unrestricted free agent. He can choose his destination. If we can offer him 17 or 16 for it to be worth his while, a team is going to have to offer 19 or 20. And I don't see that happening. So I think Hart sticks. Sharp Hours, salute. Deuce is the reason IQ and Grimes were removed. I don't know if that was the first reason, but it was definitely one of the reasons. I think Deuce has showed us through his hard work, his trust that Tibbs has, that he had more to give. And I think the Knicks were wise to give him that investment early, and then he showed the rest. He showed that he's a huge piece of this squad, and he's built for this city. He's built for this team, man. How many big playoff games did he show up? Talk about Game 3. Right, we don't have a chance to win Game 3 without Deuce. Huge games against Philly as well. If we're just talking about a step up from last postseason against Miami, where he was a 0, he took multiple steps up after that this season as well. I'm excited about Deuce's future as well as a player and what he can provide next season, right? Now, again, the constructive element is the defense against TJ McConnell. Again, we lack positional size. I think Deuce is gritty. He's definitely tough in terms of picking guards up, but no one could stand in front of TJ McConnell. He was just too quick. But the fortunate thing is, there's not too many matchups like that we're going to have to worry about, right? There's only one TJ McConnell. There's a couple of other blurs around the league as well. But look, Deuce, it's funny how we talk about his offense potentially being his best skill set right now with what he showed, but his defense is definitely a trademark as well. Now, look, 6th Man of the Year next season. Backup for Brunson if he goes down. We'll see what happens with Rokas Jokibitis, man, his draft buddy, who was selected 2 spots ahead of him. Wouldn't it be serendipity if him and Rokas were to be leading the bench next season in the backcourt as well? That could be something to look out for as well, as we're going to hit on Alec Burks next. And that backup shooting guard is wide open, man, like 7-11 right now. And that is one of the big needs we need to address, right? But another plus for Deuce is he's able to play multiple positions as well, right? he can slot alongside, another point guard and be a catch and shoot secondary, playmaker as well, playing the two, but we just give up size. With that said, but I mean, the fact that we've got him under this new extension, little over $3 million for the next few seasons, man, we are built to really, contend, right? Because you need a couple of guys outplaying their contract, more than likely, or on very fair deals, right? When you got a whole roster full of guys that are overpaid, you're going to struggle because you do need a couple of guys on good deals to fill out the rest of the squad. And Deuce is that guy right now. But he's took his chance, and all I got to do is salute to the big Deuce, man. What a guy! What a stand-up guy, and obviously I think next season, he'll come back a better player. I don't have any doubt that Deuce McBride is going to work on his game. Is he going to become, a completely different player? No, I don't see that. But can he improve his dribble? A little bit more shot creation. Work on his mid-range J, which took a big step forward. Work on his three-point pull-up as well, off the dribble. All of those things, I think he'll come back even better next season, right? But obviously, he's the primary backup. I think that's his role now solidified too, and I feel confident throughout the regular season anyway. If Brunson was to miss any games, Deuce could come in and help us continue to win games, and plays 35 minutes and run the squad as well. Look, he's a young player and he's still growing. The point guard spot is the most difficult spot to master because you're tasked with setting up other guys as well. You're not just like a wing where you get the ball and you do whatever you want. A point guard has the ball in their hands. The whole offense is going through them. They have to decide when to give it up. They have to decide who to give it to as well. So look out for a little bit more time for Deuce to continue to grow as a point guard. But he's got time, fam. And I think, the Knicks love him. Tom Thibodeau, man, is super high as well. And like I said, OG Anunoby is showing him some love as well on his Insta as well. So that was great to see that this squad's real tight. Like they said, man, close-knit, true grit, no quit. And Deuce embodies that as well. So let's move along to the next guy. Swish or dish, Deuce McBride, big swish for the season, man. Just like many shots that he drained, man. Now, as you can see on the graphic, man, the first guy that for me is going to be a dish, right? But firstly, before I talk about that, I'm going to give this man the respect that he deserves and the flowers that he deserves as well, because what a mixed season, what a mixed bag it was for Alec Burks, right? From going, being a part of that trade, which some people were sketchy about, then he came in and he looked like buns, and then he lost his spot out of the rotation completely. Then we found out he was dealing with a shoulder injury. Nobody really was the wiser about it as well. Now, he looked bad in many ways. He couldn't really keep his shot fallen. He couldn't stay in front of anybody. He was playing erratic. He was turning it over. But all of that was maybe a factor in terms of, getting traded, finding comfortability with the new team, finding ways that he could fit in, right? He was just trying to force it a little too much, right? And obviously he got a lot of rest. That helped as well. When you come in as a playoff freshest body, you're going to look hopefully better than some of these other guys, because he hadn't been playing. But what Burks did in the playoffs, man, almost became a fairy tale. Let's keep it a buck. We won a couple games, almost helped us steal game 3, helped us win game 5. Obviously was part of the blowout in game 4 against Indy, but the whole team, stunk it up in that one. But then Alec Burks in game 7, elimination game, Brunson down bodies. Alec Burks continued to empty the clip, continued to shoot well, looked like he belonged on this squad as well. And I can't lie, I won't be mad if he stays. But the reason why I've gone Dish is because we need to get younger, man. We need to get younger on this squad. If Alec Burks wants to stay as a veteran minimum, it's a yes. It's a swish for me. If that is the case, that changes, fam. But just based on, do I want to keep him and do I want to try to upgrade that spot? It's a Dish. For me, you can't rely on a player that's, coming into their mid-30s, moving forward. I know he's about to turn 33. His injury stuff might just start to come up as well. But could he be a decent, situational depth piece? Yeah, that could be possible. He's a free agent, obviously, and we'll talk about free agents next. But respect and appreciate what he gave us. But moving forward, I'm trying to aim higher. That's just the way I'm looking at it, guys. What do you think? David says Burks could be a min guy for me. I think he could help, but still expendable. Yep. Same way I think basically too. Not gonna lie, he's versatile. He can create. He can run some point. He can shoot. Maybe a part of him looking bad early, again, like I said, was just acclimating and coming to the new squad after Detroit as well. But look, his numbers in Detroit weren't great either. So I'm kind of looking at this playoff sample as just a small sample, right? I don't want to jump out the window that Alec Burks was looking nice in the playoffs because, the larger sample was that, he struggled. He's been struggling a bit recently. And yes, we needed him and he gave us a great spark. But when we reset and we start a whole new season again, it's best to see what else we can get. See what else we can get for that, fam. But like I said, man, this could be a situation where a lot of these veteran guys might take a veteran's minimum now to be a part of a championship contender. And that is where we're truly moving into in terms of the aim of next season, right? Alec Burks could be one of those guys. Maybe his agent, him, he's bounced around the league. And, we heard Josh Hart talk about how much it means to him to finally get a home. He's bounced around 4 teams, 6 coaches. All of those things factor into an older player now with a family. They don't want to keep bouncing around every single year as well. So, look, maybe Alec Burks, his family. Shout out to his lovely kids as well. Looked like they were enjoying their time at the Mecca. They were dressed in all the Knicks gear as well in Game 7. I saw on the feed. Maybe his family wants to stick. We'll see. But like I said, if I'm GM, I'm identifying that this squad needs some reconstruction. It needs some help off the bench, right? And can we aim a little higher than Alec Burks? I think we can, right? There's obviously some talent in the draft. We need guys who can do some other things as well. But as a situational bench piece, I would have no problem. David says there was no Brunson or Nova 3 during Burke's first time around, and I'm sure he was trying to adjust. That's a good point. Yeah, definitely the first time Burks came, he had the green light. There's no doubt about that. My concern is just durability-wise and his age, and just trying to plan for the future as well. But I guess 32, 33 ain't that old if his body can stay healthy. But in terms of, veteran minimum, nothing more than that, right? I would not be spending, used up cap space or anything like that for Alec Burks. And I don't think the Knicks intend to do that as well. It might be just a quick, Alec Burks, glad we could get you back. We appreciate you, but go explore your options. Go do what's best for your family, right? And I'm sure there's a team out there that can give him, a room exception, or something higher than the mid-level. Could be a factor as well, Michael. One other factor too is that the mid-level contract has gone up as well. It's now 2.3 mil. It used to be 1.3 mil as well. So the veterans minimum is a little more, obviously cost of living, taxes are going up as well, but the veteran minimum contract for these guys has gone up a lot more, obviously prorated to the years of service in the league. And Alec Burks has been in the league, I think, 9 years at least, so he's eligible for the full veterans minimum as well. But look, love what he did in the playoffs, and salute to him. He was one of, a bigger trade as well with Grimes and with the next man that we're about to talk about right now, man. The first big question mark for me right now is yet to be determined with Bojan Bogdanovic. Bogey, man. Another guy with a mixed bag, man. Started better, ended poorly. In terms of Alec Burks' story, it was reverse, right? But glad we were able to get these two guys in. I do miss Quentin Grimes, not going to lie, but I'm not one of the people that are saying we should never have done the deal. Quentin Grimes is an untouchable. Facts are, like I said before, we don't really know until the future. We don't know. You can't fully evaluate the trades. Obviously, we didn't advance any further. Maybe Bogey's salary helps us get a next big piece. Maybe Bogey sticks and becomes a big part of, the next thing. So we wait to see. Quentin Grimes got injured towards the regular season anyway, and he had to have surgery, I think, as well. So, hey, if Grimes had stuck, he might not have been a factor for the New York Knicks as well, right? And he's been starting to suffer a little more injuries for a young guy, has Quentin Grimes as well. So it's all part of the equation. But as coach says, 6'8" wing. There's one big thing that Bogey provides, like OG, is positional size, man. Something that this team needs more of. So can we afford to lose a guy that provides something that this team doesn't have much of? Obviously his age needs to be considered as well. He's 34 now, about to turn 35 too. But if he sticks, and I'm open for Bogey to stick 100%. But if he sticks, I don't think it's a long-term thing, man. It's going to be maybe another 1 year max, 2 years maybe, kind of thing. He's just going to be salary waiting, I think, to be moved. And it might be this draft night. It might be something like that. It might be mid-season, next season, or it might be the following summer. But just touching on his play first, Bogey is someone who, needed a little more time as well. Obviously, he couldn't really find his rhythm, but once he did, we really saw what he could do, man. And for me, one of the biggest what ifs, right? Obviously we'd already lost Randle at that point, and that sucked as well. But we started to win still, and we were making a huge run, right? Not gonna lie, I thought Bogey was going to be part of a big run. We saw how the latest series against Philly went, and how Indiana series went as well. And aside from OG going down in Game 2, aside from losing Josh Hart in Game 6 with the abdominal, the next biggest what if, or even the biggest what if, was Bojan Bogdanovic, because he would have been huge in the Indiana series, for his size, his shot making, he would have been able to check Siakam a little more as well. We wouldn't have to put Josh Hart on Siakam. He rebounded as well. And no doubt, he hit shots. For a guy his age, man, I feel for him, because you don't get many more chances to make a big run later in his career as well. And by all reports, man, he was loving being a New York Knick. Being traded from Detroit, coming to the Mecca. He had a lot of community and a lot of family in New York City. And he was really starting to enjoy his game, in New York. But, freak injury, it just, it goes down as one of the biggest what ifs for me. If Nicholas Batum doesn't fall on his foot, it's just one of those freak things, man. We suffered a lot of bad luck. With that said, though, if Bogey comes back, that is going to be another fuel for him to maybe help this team next season. Maybe he's going to be part of the ride for a little bit. I don't have a decision definitively in terms of Swish or Dish, right? It's kind of in between, which is why I've got a question mark right there, man. It could go either way, but if we're talking about, pick up his option, only $2 million of his salary is guaranteed, by the way. So we can let him walk and maybe free up a little bit of extra money. Or if no move is available just yet, we guarantee his $20 million and we keep that salary and we bring him back too. So in terms of his play, it's Swish. Knowing that he's not a long-term thing, right? It's just a 1-year option, right? So it's not going to hurt us, financially. If anything, the finances are going to help us facilitate what's next. But what he brings is the size, and he is potentially a trade commodity in terms of if you are trying to package him for another star, he could be a piece that another team, would be okay to keeping, as well. So that helps, that helps too. Just glad that he was able to, rectify his game, because it didn't start very well. But, Bojan Bogdanovic definitely helped us get, higher up the seeding, helped us achieve the 50 wins, helped us get the second seed with his play. Obviously helped us a little bit early in the Philly series as well, right? There were times when he hit big buckets in the fourth quarter against Philly in game 1, I think in game 2 prior to the injury. But we don't know with his age, and the durability, that is a concern too. But yeah, the 1-year deal is a short-term commitment, fam. Sherwin says, get him off. Dish defensively is a liability. Like I said, I'm cool either way. I know it's not his full game, but knowing that his salary is more than likely going to be used to get the next guy in, fam, I think that is a little more valuable than just letting him walk, because we're already over the cap, right? And as we're about to talk about in my off-season guide after this, is potentially Bogey and Mitch's salary could be used to bring back another max player, or even less than that if you just want to trade Bogey with somebody else. But what's up, Pops? I would keep Bogey. He's a professional scorer, sniper. Yep, I feel you on that. Michael says Bogey's a Swish. Yeah, he can hit it. He's a guy who, fits the locker room as well, right? He was happy with his role, scorer off the bench, comes in, maybe backup 4 role as well. I mean, 34 or 35, it's getting on a little, but, if he's only playing 20, 25 minutes a night, that could be perfect. We'll see. As David says, he was averaging 20 points a game this season with Detroit as well, so he wasn't going to get that much usage with us, but that is something that he's capable of doing. As we know, he's a go-to scorer as well. And in terms of paying him, I don't really look at it like the Knicks are paying him that, because it's expiring money that we're going to trade. And you got to ask, if you don't pick up his option, who can you get that's better than him, for this season? So that, I think, needs to be considered. But look, I understand both arguments. I really do, for Bogey, right? It could be a Swish or a Dish. And it's more than likely going to be a Dish, because I don't see him staying for the long haul. He's up in age, and, you can find bench production a lot easier, let's face it. He's not going to be a starter with us, right? And I don't even think Tibbs is going to play him starting minutes. Let's say an OG Anunoby was to miss time. Let's say Josh Hart was to miss any time. I wouldn't see Tibbs inserting Bogey in starting minutes as well. Would he play him in the fourth quarter a little? Yeah, like he did, but starting role, that wouldn't happen either as well. So yeah, it's more of a Dish for me, for Bogey, but more than likely he's going to stay, I think, for a season at least, unless he's traded on the draft night. Now, another guy, a part of a trade that we're going to hit on next, is Mr. Chewy, Precious Achiuwa. as well. And for me, first and foremost, he's going to be the second definitive dish for me. But I'll preface that by saying before that if he's willing to come back on a veteran minimum, which I doubt it, I'm being realistic here. He's a young player. He'll be looking to get something more than a guaranteed minimum. But if he was able to, stick on a veteran minimum, it would be a swish. But I think it's a dish for Precious, man. Another mixed bag. Love what he did, parts of the regular season. And I've got to give him a salute because he stepped up, when Randle was down and, we went on that big run. He was playing 35, 40 minutes some nights. He was helping Josh Hart out again. But a limited player in terms of offensively. It's 4-on-5 when he's on the court as well. But then when OG went down in game 2, I was kind of looking like, okay, what could he do defensively? What could Precious Achiuwa give the Knicks defensively when we needed it the most? In game 6, game 7, it was disappointing. It really was, man. I think this guy's capable of more, but he's just like one of those like the fans of Toronto and the fans of Miami talk about. He's just one of those frustrating players that you hope to expect more from, but you just don't get it. And look, is he to blame completely for Indiana in that game? No, right? The whole team was bad. But what I was hoping to see more of is that he was supposed to be more fresh. He wasn't playing as many minutes as any of the other guys, and he came up small, man, as well. Siakam took over game 6 and 7, right? TJ McConnell, it was a walk in the park down the paint for those guys as well. He was basically invisible on the court as well. That's why, unless it's anything, outside of a veteran minimum, it's a dish for me. Coach says Precious can walk. 100%. Agree with that one. Pop says Precious only 25. I would grab him. Like I said, I would be open to keeping him, but if it's a minimum. Coach says no thanks at any price, as well. Yep, you're convinced with that one. Michael says Precious is a dog. Mixed bag, like I said, man. I love some of the things he can do, but look, now's the time. This might be the first time I get into a little bit of the off-season stuff, as we're going to talk about that next, man. Like I said, we're buzzing right now. We've been going an hour and 40, and this is a huge show tonight. Replay Squad will have timestamps to get through this, but what I'm going to say about the off-season is that the goals have changed, right? The bar has been moved higher, and we need to look at it, appropriately, right? We can't be getting sentimental, thinking that some of these guys gave us a little bit, let's bring them all back, right? At some point, these roster spots are going to become scarce, and we need to have, the adequate, talent to help this team get further. That's all I'm saying, right? I like what some of these guys do, Burks, Precious, but for me, it's a dish because I think we can aim higher. And I think the goalposts are moved. It's no longer trying to, get 4th seed anymore and, get to the second round. It's championship now. It's Eastern Conference Finals or NBA Finals for me. And yeah, that's my thoughts on what we need to, to do. So, yeah, look, Precious 6'8", can do some things. He's not really a 5, and that's our problem. We need a proper 5 with size. He can guard some 4s as well, but like I said, if we're just going off the playoffs, I was underwhelmed, right? And could be an outlier for sure. Players can bounce back as well. I'm not having a go at Precious Achiuwa, right? I'm just making my decision right now. If I'm keeping guys or dishing them, I move on from Precious Achiuwa. But with that said as well, I want to give him his flowers because he helped us throughout the regular season. He was a pleasant surprise early from the OG trade as well. And obviously we would have been further screwed, in the postseason without him as well. But I don't think he took his chance, right? This wasn't a guy that screamed to other teams, pay me 10 mil. This wasn't a guy that even showed that he's worthy of maybe 6 mil, as well as, as the cap and all that changes, this money is going to become more valuable for teams moving forward. But look, Precious, I hope you find a great spot in the league. New York native. I know he, raised in New York City as well, right? It was a great story. We'll see what happens with Precious Achiuwa. But next up, huge piece to talk about next. I got a question mark here over Mitchie for different reasons, man. And this is the time to just really give us your thoughts on where to go with this. The 5 spot. Obviously, we're going to pay Isaiah. We talked about that. Mitchie, man, showed again, another season where he showed his tantalizing potential. The best offensive rebounder in the league. A player who any team would love to have on their squad when fully healthy. That is when the big if and but and the when comes in, man. When he is healthy. If we're just going off our track record, it's been 3 seasons in a row, maybe even 4. Correct me if I'm wrong. But at least 3 seasons where he's picked up a significant injury. Now, some of those were freak injuries, right? I'm still not over the fact that Joel Embiid, man, pulled this guy's leg after surgery and was not ejected from the ball game as well, right? I'll forever be absolutely furious over Joel Embiid, man. I want no parts of Joel Embiid ever. All I want to do is bury him every single season now and make it my mission for the Knicks to knock him out, man, until he retires as well. And as a guy who deals with his own knee and leg injuries, I cannot believe a fool like Joel Embiid would do that to Mitchie. But outside of that, obviously he hurt his hand the other season. He had the big surgery as well. So there is concerns. There is real concern. Mitchie, the talent, I keep. It's a Swish. Really good contract. It's going to be descending as well. But if we're going into our off-season guide, right, if the Knicks are looking to make an upgrade with this roster somewhere, right, may not even be the 5 spot, but the maneuvering is limited. If you're not wanting to trade your Devos, your Harts, your OGs, there's a lot of pieces that are now solidified, right? There's only so many few guys that can be traded. And if you're looking at Bojan Bogdanovic's salary, you pick up that option and you look at Mitchell Robinson's team-friendly contract. Those two put together can form, a very decent trade number that, can facilitate, getting somebody in here who is earning a max salary as well. So could he be collateral, right? Could he be somewhere wanted more than the New York Knicks as well? That could be something to look out for as well. Maybe not as happy losing a potential starting spot for his career aspirations. Well, you always got to think about the player as well, and their agent will no doubt have a say. With Isaiah Hartenstein, right, it's all love between those two. Mitchie and Neihart are brothers. They have a great chemistry, a great friendship. I don't think there's going to be any animosity if Isaiah's the starting 5. I think, Mitchie's injury history speaks for itself. But, I'm on the fence with this, right? I just see Mitchie's salary as the best possible way to facilitate a trade. But if you can guarantee to me that he's fully healthy, then I want to keep him. But that's the problem. You can't guarantee to me that he's going to be healthy. So that is the big outlier, fam. As Sherwin says, Mitchie, when healthy, is the man. I sung Mitchie's praise all season, man. I'm Team Mitch. But again, some of the injuries weren't his fault. It's just the regular occurrence, if you're a team, do you leave yourself potentially short at that position again, going into next season? because it's hard to do these things in season. But look, if the Knicks get a better third string center that can be relied on, like an Andre Drummond, then I think that could really help sway things in terms of running it back. Running it back at the 5 spot. Coaches get a dude to take over. Khalil Ware. Sherwin says defensive players normally get hurt. I know you're a big Mitchie fan, and I know, look, Embiid, what he did was bad. I don't know if Mitchie would have continued to last, but definitely getting his leg pulled. I think that re-aggravated his ankle. For real, man. David says, I'm not actively trying to trade Mitch, but certainly if the right trade came along, he's not on that tradable list. Yeah, I feel you on that too, fam, as well. I'm just looking at this roster, and if you're trying to make a trade without including Randle, without including OG, Hart, Devo, and Brunson, obviously, and Isaiah, you're just trying to keep as well, provided you don't sign and trade Isaiah. I think that could be a possibility as well. But just picking guys that have the most value, it's got to be a Bogdanovic and a Mitch contract out of the guys who I think are expendable. Now, that doesn't, again, say that I don't think a guy is valuable. I just think he's expendable in terms of the grand scheme. But look, he might prove me wrong. Sean says CT Embiid bullied Hart. Not going to lie, Mitchie was the better center in that matchup as well. Then he got injured as well. So what I'm saying is, Mitchie provides the defense. But whenever we get to the postseason, we seem to be short bodies as well. Now, Hart and Mitchie together form a great tandem that I'm happy with. I think we need to get some more offense, though. And again, if we could get a third string center that can give us something else, that'd be great. Mitchie's contract is one of the best contracts in the league when he's healthy, because it's 12 mil. Well, it's 14. I think then it's 13, and then it's 12. He's got 3 more years to run. Considering what he can give, it's an incredible contract. In terms of talking maybe 2 years from now, teams will be falling over themselves to try to get a starting center at that price when the cap goes up. But I don't know what we need to do in terms of maybe lighten the load. You split Isaiah's minutes to 24 minutes, and you split Mitchie's with 24 minutes, and you ensure that they're both healthy. That's one of the things we need to work on, man, with the depth and the positional size too. But I mean, all the flowers for his rebounding. Mitchie's, he's come a long way since being drafted in the second round, the 36th pick. Right now, he's earned his contract, and he's at times outplayed that contract, no doubt. But right, I think the future of him in the league is bright if he can be healthy. I think really, we see the blueprint now with Minnie. Look at Gobert and Carl Anthony, Carl Anthony Towns, Cat Gobert. The league might start to go big as well. So if you can stack as many of these bigs, that could still be the way. But we'll see, man. Like I said, I don't have a really definitive thing. Swish or dish with Mitchie. If I'm going to be more of a dish, if a star becomes available by a trade, because we need some salary to go out, right? If that doesn't become available this off-season, then it's a swish. We keep Mitch for another year and we see what happens, right? We see what happened. Maybe it was an outlier, maybe he's healthy for the next full season. And we wait to see, fam. But next up, man, we're going to talk about Julius Randle, right? But before we do that, we'll quickly go through the other guys who were on the bench for this playoff run. And that was Shake Milton, Daquan Jeffries, Mamadi Diakite, and Jericho Sims as well. We'll talk about Jericho after, but it's time to talk about Juju Randle right now, man. the guy who started this basically with Mitch. He started the movement, did Julius Randle. The Mr. We Here. New York, we here. Juju Randle, man. Give him his flowers first and foremost. Became an all-star for the second time, right? All NBA would have been if he didn't get injured, but became an all-star, got his dues on the all-star stage as well. He was announced, even though he couldn't participate. Huge year for Julius in terms of, changed agents in the summer, and then he has recently moved back to CAA, where it all started with Julius Randle, man. What he's been able to do with the Knicks and build this culture that we have, build consistency with Tom Thibodeau, all of that and more, man. He started the movement, like I said, right? We all remember the summer of 2019 when that coward, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, those guys ducked from New York. They ducked and went to Brooklyn right now, and Scott Perry and them brought in Julius Randle, man. It was a fine acquisition. It was like something like 19 milli, first contract that he had. It was a great pickup. It was a very underrated pickup. I remember Max Kellerman at the time, some other people that were more anti-Knicks, praised the Knicks, saying that it could work out better for the Knicks to get, a more under-the-radar pickup as well. Now, we obviously know there's been some trials, tribulations for Julius Randle with this squad, but it's just pleasing to see how far we've come, as a team and an organization since he's been here as well. He's had a big part of that, obviously getting in a Jalen Brunson, right? Obviously a lot goes into a Brunson's free agent decision, but maybe a large part of that was, hey, Julius is here. He's another all-star. I can work with him. And I think if we look at January as a key month to assess this season, right? The Knicks were one of the hottest teams in the NBA when it came to winning, I think, 9 or 8 in a row. I think we were leading the league in a net rating as well. And we had the longest win streak right now as well. We had got OG Anunoby, and it looked great. Right? OG fell into that third option. He was just, standing on the elbow, catch and shoot. Brunson was top of the key, and Julius Randle was down low, playing bully ball as well. Rebounding numbers were excellent. But the highlight for me was the ability to play off Brunson this season. I think it took a step forward. I think Julius Randle started to move the ball better as well, as he recognized that the team had more talent. And that's where I think it's a big swish for right now for me and Julius Randle, because it's unfinished business for me. Right, we hadn't seen the best of it yet. January was a cup of coffee, and we can talk all about the star acquisition and the potential trades of the future and all of that, but we don't know. That's uncertain. What is certain right now is that Julius is an all-star. He's an all-NBA type player, and what we saw with Jalen Brunson in the playoffs, at times it was a sorry sight, because for his health and for his future, the worst thing we can do is to wear Jalen Brunson down, right? For some of those wins, Brunson had to score 44 points, 50 points for the Knicks to win some games, and that's not the best way to win. It's very short-sighted, because yes, it could pick you up some wins, but you're going to wear your best player down in the meantime, and that's what we saw, man. Hurt foot as well. I pray that it wasn't broken. And also the hand ended up getting broken as well with Jalen Brunson. So when you're deciding what to do with Randle, you're also going to factor the welfare of your best player, Jalen Brunson, right? And you need to get him some help. So when it comes to Julius, he's another player, commands double teams. The three-point shooting took a step back this season, but he was shooting less attempts as well. So that is something to be mindful of when it comes to that as well. But what I was high on was his playmaking ability. So yeah, what are your thoughts, guys? I think we keep Randle at the minute, right? I mean, obviously he's extension eligible after next season, right? But the buzz is starting now, because obviously, you don't want to lose a person for nothing. You know, he's looking to position himself, you know, to get the max possible money as well. And look, it is an uncertain situation. I get it, you know, because this is a guy who, similar to Carmelo Anthony in his prime when he came and nicked, you know, he wanted the bag, right? And sometimes, you know, you don't really put yourself in that situation, you know, to really do that. So yeah, it is what it is, and we're going to move forward and we're going to see what it looks like. I think that's what I would do. Jet Life says swish. Big swish for Juju. Coach says, I've been saying Randle for Cat for the last 3 years. Minnesota can't afford Cat on the payroll. Certainly, if you're losing Randle, you do need that positional size back. But I think Randle has a more dog mentality. I think he fits New York a bit better than a Cat. Old Head Salute says Randle's presence was missed. Absolutely, it was missed. And I think, you know, there's a lot of recency bias. You know, people forget what you're capable of doing when they don't see you. Out of sight, out of mind, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And look, Randle's not the perfect player. He's had his ups and downs, but now that we know we have our clear 1A championship lead player, I mean, would it kill us to see what it looks like more with Brunson, Randle, and OG, you know, and the ability to add more depth to the squad as well? So that's where I stand for now. But by no means is this thing set in stone. Like, don't get me wrong. I could see us winning a championship and Julius Randle not being on the team as well. It's literally, for me, a year-by-year proposition. But it is going to get a little messy with this contract as well. Because if I'm paying Brunson that, and by the way, possibly Brunson taking a pay cut or an early extension is so that Julius Randle, you know, can be, you know, also be signed to keep him as well. Don't forget, Brunson is team first as well. And Julius Randle is also team first. He signed a very decent contract early as well. So Hidalgo says Dish. Yeah, I know there's going to be some people on the fence or open to moving Julius for that next guy, right? And when we are talking about that next guy, some of those names could be this, man. Donovan, for me, is a no. You know, last season was different. The fact that Donovan hasn't been able to really get it done with Darius Garland is, you know, is a something to really look out for in terms of Brunson being a smaller guard as well, right? And also, we heard reporting yesterday from Ian Begley, SNY, that the Knicks won't be aggressive in getting Donovan. So that tells the story. The Knicks have moved on, I think, and I will be surprised, right? The Clippers, Paul George, he's a free agent. They don't want to lose Paul George for nothing. Is there an outside shot that the Knicks could swap a Randle and a Paul George in a deal? That's something that could happen, but I don't see it likely. I think those two are friends as well. If Paul George is coming, he would want Julius to be on the team. And I think Paul George will probably get his big extension with LA, right? Mikal Bridges could be something, right? The Nets need to sell their fans on something, right? DeMar DeRozan, I think we could get that for cheaper than that. And obviously Anthony Davis, right? If Randle is going to leave the Knicks one day, I could see him wanting to go back to the West Coast, you know, and maybe be the new face of that franchise. Obviously that he played with Kobe Bryant with the Lakers possibly, but that's if he's not on the Knicks. But I do think Julius will stay at least for another season. But I mean, what do I know, man? I can't predict the future. I think we'll know on draft night. You know, first day of free agency is going to be big. Look out for more news. But I recognize and understand that Julius Randle can add to this team, right? He's not a subtraction. He's an addition. For me, in my opinion, what we saw in the playoffs, right, you know, it changed a lot in terms of, like, you know, go-to options. It changed, you know, how the team fits as well. You obviously don't want to run OG into the ground as well, so you need more positional size, right? And for Randle, Buzzer says Swish for that. Old Head says Cat's contract is an albatross. Right now, it's a bad contract, and I think he just fits really well in Mini. You take him out of a good fit, and I think we get the worst of Cat. But having said that, he's definitely, made steps. However, bad contracts right now are going to look better, I think, as the cap goes up. So that is something to look out for as well, too, fam, as well. As I said with OG, right? People might freak out over OG's 30, 35, but what they're not thinking about is in 2-3 years when the cap is going up and stars are on 80, 90, 100 mil, that 30 mil is going to be an absolute bargain basement as well. So there is an advantage to locking OG up to a 4 or 5 year deal, because that deal is just going to look better as he ages, obviously, if he's still healthy. And I know the health is that concern as well. But, the health could be factored in with Julius as well. Now, let's face it, he's turning 30 now. He's 29. Is Julius about to turn 30? He's had a few leg injuries in the past. He's had the shoulder injury now as well. So, like I said, I don't blame him. He's looking to position himself to get the bag, right? You can only play for so long. He needs to take care of his family and to be in a position where he can get that super max or whatever it is, the 270, 250, whatever it is, fam, as well, right? I'll respect the Knicks if they end up giving it to him, but I think Leon Rose will obviously have a lot to think about, because January is a very small sample and there's a lot of money that does need to be, moved out as well. Randle and Davis are best friends, says Sherwin. PG doesn't fit our timeline, says David. With that, DeRozan could come off our bench as well. That's where I'm leaning towards, as we're about to wrap up the season grades and Swish or Dish. We're going to hit on the coach now. Maybe save the biggest for last. And then we're going to talk about off-season moves, fam, right now, as we're going on 2 hours. And we're going to keep going, fam. Salute everyone out here, fam. We've got the news that Jalen Brunson is a second-team All-NBA now. It's a great achievement for his career. We salute to him. But it's fuel for next season, fam. He deserves better right now. As Minnesota are up 62-59 at halftime over Mavericks as well. That's a tight series, that one, too. But yeah, I want to talk about DeMar DeRozan a little later as well, because he could be the most attainable player who could be okay coming off our bench. Hidalgo says Dish Mitch, not Jew. I gave my thoughts on Mitch, and yeah, it was a Dish, possible Swish. But if you're trying to make an upgrade, I think Mitchie's, salary could be very attractive for me. Everything Knicks, what's up? You don't trade all NBA talent. You add to it. Get rid of Mitch. Fragile as well. Yeah, a lot of differing opinions now, man, on Mitchie. As I said with Mitchie, man, you go off the track record as well. Fairly or unfairly, that's how general managers are paid to evaluate, because their job is on the line. We're talking about billion-dollar industry where, team success is on the line as well. And some franchises just don't want to take that risk anymore as well. Some do. I get it. It's a business, right? Mitchie got his guaranteed money. He's good. His family, him and he's good. But Julius is positioning now to hopefully get that other big contract. Now, he moved to CAA again. I don't know if he followed his close friend back to the agency. When he left, his close friend left to WME, but he's moved back to CAA now as well. And that could mean everything. It could mean that he's here for the Knicks for the long haul. Obviously, Leon Rose, Sam Rose as well. We traded Obi Toppin. Well, Tibbs was never open to really, flirting with using Obi more. The Knicks did Obi a solid. It's just a damn shame that they had to trade him to Indiana, man. But we'll talk about that another day. As we're looking ahead, man, I'm excited about this club and this future, man. And like I said before, it's a swish for me, for Julius, because I need to see more. But that doesn't mean that it's locked in. It doesn't mean it's set in stone, right? I'm going by year right now. As the goalposts have moved, it's championship time for me. And before we hit on some of the two-way guys, last but not least, right? I brought some fire for Precious Achiuwa, and I'm going to be a little bit more constructive as well on Jericho Sims, man. It's going to be a dish for me. And again, I'll preface it by saying, yeah, I know he's on a cheap contract. It ain't really, hampering the Knicks to keep Jericho. So I'm not trying to like throw him out with the trash. However, the Knicks can upgrade that spot, right? And that's a fact, right? Jericho Sims, if the coach ain't going to trust you, what are you there for, Just upgrade the spot. He's had a couple years to try to, develop his game, and he might get there one day. I'm not saying he can't, but you got to, as I said, with the goalpost changing, you got to add more depth, to this squad, man. You need positional size. That's it. Jericho's got great hops, but he's 6'10". You're playing 4-on-5, right? And he's not even, he's not developing defensively. And that is a concern for me. So it's a dish for Jericho Sims. And as we'll talk about with the draft, look at some of these options. You get a 6'10" power forward center with one of these 3 picks, and you keep it moving. Maybe you can't use Jericho on a two-way because that would be ideal. He's too old for that now. So otherwise, he could be Westchester, he could be back and forth, but you can't do that anymore with Jericho Sims. So as I said before, I think Jericho could be done with a fresh start, a fresh start somewhere else. I think if you've got Isaiah and you've got Mitch, you definitely need another guy who can do something different. Whether it, shoot a little mid-range, be like a stretch you out 5-man, something like that. Let's see. Michael says, I don't want DeRozan. What's up, Bricks Nation? Looking to move Randle and 2 of our first for Mikal Bridges. That'll be a trade that'll shake up New York City. Man, that would be big for both teams. Tough to see it, but I would be open to it. We'll see what happens, right? Julius has moved back to CAA. Leon Rose, they're really close, William Wesley, maybe Kenny Payne comes back to be a coach as well. But yeah, we don't have to linger on Sims too much, but that is my thoughts as well. You guys let me know. Do you want to keep Sims around? Are you high on his upside as well? Now, out of the two-way guys, before we touch on the coach, Thomas Thibodeau, the two-way guys, man, I'm happy to let Charlie Brown, who's like 27, he's 26, 27, or 28. He's too old to be a developmental player right now. And then Dwayne Washington, it's been too many seasons, right? We're not utilizing him. Let's keep those spots for some young talent to develop. But maybe one young talent that I would keep around is Jacob Toppin. Obviously, there's various reasons, but Jacob, can be that name, that factor in Westchester as well. He has upside as well. He's a fundamentally good prospect. I think, he's got length, he's got positional size. Is he facing uphill to be an NBA player? Yes, I think, it's going to be tough for him to establish himself, but out of one of the two-way spots, I think he could be someone who could be a swish. But now we have come to talk about and rounding out the season report, Swish or Dish, extensions on the line, all of that, fam. with the season done and dusted, it's time to talk about the coach, Tom Thibodeau, and what he achieved with the squad for this season. Obviously coming in, man, he's been here a minute now, and expectations were pretty high. You made the second round last season. A lot of people were comfortable saying that this season, in the preseason would be a failure if we didn't get past the second round again, based on last year. Obviously, it's fluid. The season started. It started a little slow. We made some moves, and then the goalpost moved as well. Brunson was looking like him, and then Randle unfortunately went down as well. But of course, we were on track to be a 50-plus win team right there as well. We got OG. I mean, we've got to start with the accolades first, because coach, some to say deserve coach of the year. For me, I think he would have, been a fair, a worthy winner. Definitely, I think playoffs was a mixed bag, and we'll talk about that. But we'll just start with regular season first. 50 wins, got the Knicks the second seed for the first time in a decade. Right, that cannot be glossed over as well. Whether whether you're a Tibbs guy or not, he's brought stability to this franchise as well. He's brought that hunger, that winning mentality as well, and he pushes these guys like no other coach. And I will challenge, if people do want to get rid of Tibbs, I understand, or they're not a big fan of Tibbs, then I get it. But you've also got to come with who are you replacing that with as well, because you're not just replacing everything. If you lose Tibbs, you lose a lot of things as well. But that's where the constructive stuff will start to come in, right? He's got to change some things as well. If he's not willing to change, then it might be the end of the road, in terms of this is how far we can go, right? Whether we extend him or not, in terms of getting closer to a championship. If he's not willing to bend on some things, then, real conversations have to be had with Leon and with himself as well. But with all the positives, Tibbs has brought, and as fans, we don't celebrate, we don't enjoy this season as much if we don't have Tibbs, because, we were able to get the most out of this roster, and some of the other coaches would have no doubt, not squeezed enough out of this team, right? But the other thing is the respect that these guys have for Tibbs, right? The front office is now aligned for the first time in how long, man? There's no infighting. There's no, Phil Jackson BS. There's no Fizdale BS. There's no James Dolan forcing, Steve Mills, Scott Perry to stand up there and do impromptu, things like that. Tibbs is the spokesperson now as well. He talks more than Leon Rose. So Leon likes that as well. He likes to work behind the scenes. And Tom Thibodeau, someone who's brought so much and some to this franchise as well. And remember, this is a team that, was knocked back by Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving when most people thought that was a done deal. So how we have recovered as a franchise, it's been huge as well. But as I said, is this the end of the road? Is this as far as the Knicks can go if we don't adjust and if we don't change some things as well? We could talk about X's and O's, and how Tibbs, isn't adept at some of those things. We could talk about adjustments, all of those things. Where he did show some signs of adjusting to, against some of his former habits previously as well. But with the number one, talk about Tibbs right now about the injuries, right? It is a bit of nuance to it. There is the Mitchie injury. There is the Julius Randle injury, and there's the Bojan Bogdanovic injury as well. All of those three injuries, I think, had nothing to do with Tom Thibodeau, right? Mitchie has had leg injuries in the past. He's a big man, and like I said, that, I won't use that word. That Joel Embiid, did what he did, right? And that infuriates me. But Julius Randle fell on the shoulder, of course. Could he have taken him out of the game as well? We know that, games are not over. That's something that Tibbs can hopefully adjust moving forward better. But Bojan Bogdanovic, of course, Nicholas Batum fell on his foot. That was freak. But the Josh Hart abdominal strain playing 48 minutes, multiple games to get past the first round, the fight towards the end of the regular season for the better seeding and playing guys a little over their minutes, ideal minute, is something to be factored in. And then the OG Anunoby injury as well is something to be factored in for me personally, right? The guy played 4 consecutive games of the highest minutes of his career as well. So that is something to be factored in. Now, is that counting against Tibbs so much that you need to get rid of him? I don't think so. I think you still extend Tom Thibodeau. You give him a 3-year extension. It's not my money, as I said before. If it's 4 years, if it's 5 years, whatever they give him, coaches can always be fired and paid out. But he deserves to come back and continue what he's done with this team, right? The squad loves playing for Tibbs. And like I said, we have a clear identity with what we're doing right now. The opponents know what we're all about. It's all about equipping Tom Thibodeau now with more of his guys and more depth, right? Understand the flaws that Tom Thibodeau has and try to aid those by bringing in, more guys, more size, more durability, all of those things. And it goes to what, basically has helped us get to this point, right? If you're going to rock with Tibbs and you're going to keep Tibbs, then just double down and make sure that all the things are aligned to fam as well. And look, a guy like a Mikal Bridges, would he say no to him? I doubt it, man. He's the NBA's Iron Man. 400 and something consecutive games, 4 seasons without missing a game, I think. Sorry, he hasn't missed a game as well. So I think look out for us to get a little more Tibbs guys, right? Bruce Brown, Tibbs is in love with him. The Knicks were in heavy talks to get a Bruce Brown as well. I think Tibbs has been a big fan of Gordon Hayward as well, as we're about to dive in after this to the draft talk, and we'll preview a little bit of the free agency tracker as well, but that'll be our next show that we do, and we'll go through the entire free agent list, fam, and see who's out there as well. But in terms of some of these guys on screen, the Knicks were interested in a Bruce Brown. Tibbs likes his mentality. He's a championship winner with Denver. Kelly Oubre, I think Tibbs is a fan of him. He did an admirable job guarding as well. He's not a great offensive player, but he gives us a little bit more length and size. And then Gordon Hayward could be a free agent. He's coming off that massive deal. I wouldn't touch him unless it's veterans minimum. I'll say that, man. I'm not advocating to give Gordon Hayward any money outside of a veterans minimum. But if some of these guys want to take a discount, that could be something. That could be something great. So yeah, with that said, man, we bring it up. Swish or dish, Tom Thibodeau. Obviously, based on what he's achieved this season, it's a swish for me. But again, it's a year-to-year proposition. We don't just gloss over the negatives. We don't just ride with the positives, and we don't do vice versa. It's got to be like, okay, Tibbs, and I no doubt Leon Rose and him will be doing their full season autopsy and discussion, right? And and seeing where they can get better, because obviously they got big extensions with OG to think about. They got Isaiah to think about as well. One thing about Tibbs that I love the most, though, is that he wants to win badly, and you love that. He wants to win. He's a coach that doesn't want to retire without a championship, but he wants to do it in New York, right? And if he's willing to, adjust on some things and change it up a bit, then that's cool with me. That's cool with me. But obviously, some of the plays, in the playoffs late, game 6 and 7, right? I don't think it was he wouldn't able to get this team up to competing, right? That's the worst. That's the least thing that he has trouble doing, right? He's got this squad up all season to compete hard, but some of his adjustments were good and some weren't, right? Game 5, great adjustment after game 4 when he put Deuce McBride into the starting lineup. He took out Precious Achiuwa, right? That was the catalyst to the Game 5 win as well. After Game 6, when Coach Carlisle adjusted as well, putting more bodies on Jalen Brunson, putting more length as well. We did not adjust, and Jalen Brunson did not do a good job adjusting to that and playing into the hands of inbounding the basketball, right? Letting TJ McConnell and those guys just press Jalen Brunson up against the baseline just to get the damn ball in bounds as well. So play calling after timeouts, inbounding, all of that, I've got to give the biggest thumbs down for Tom Thibodeau, right? That's his biggest weakness for me outside of the minutes stuff, right? It was cringe to watch Jalen Brunson hobbled trying to get the ball up the court as well. No adjustment was made all series as well, and that hurts because that was working into the game plan of Carlisle. You know, they were trying to run Brunson into the ground, and it was working, right? There wasn't many other, key adjustments with that. I know they did try to get Hart to bring the ball up a little bit. DiVincenzo did it at times successfully, but not enough was done to try to get the ball in bounds better as well. As we know, we suffered, a couple of late turnovers as well. So without going into it any further, man, Tom has his pros, he has his cons right now. But if you are to replace him, back to my original question, if you are someone who wants someone else, what are they bringing in? What are they doing that's better than Tibbs? To give up a good thing, and Tibbs is still a good thing, right? But what are they providing? What are they doing? But is Tibbs the guy to lead us to a championship, right? The questions still remain, right? Questions still remain, but, the goalposts have moved, and no doubt next season will be a lot more expectation. I think that is one of the biggest things, fam, as well. What's up, Quiet Money? Salute. Medlin Brown, salute. What's up? Tibbs don't use his bench like others. He plays his players too much minutes, reg season and post-season as well. Knock on Tibbs, he play them too much, while other teams don't have as many injuries as well. I think it's a nuanced discussion, but yeah, there is concern in the playoffs and regular season. He grinds out more wins, and he coaches guys hard. I think there's a way that Leon can help with that, is just to get more guys, and I don't know if Tibbs would have played OG all those minutes if Bogey was as healthy. Josh Hart as well, all those 48 minutes. But yeah, that's where Leon needs to come in and really, pull Tibbs aside, because I really am sick of falling short, in the second round, right? It's not a good feeling. Knowing that you're more talented than Indiana, but you simply lose because you've killed yourself. You gas yourself out. And I think, obviously, as I said, I don't want to attach Tibbs to Mitch's injury, Bogey, and Julius Randle, right? Those guys could have been healthy, but were not, but didn't have anything to do with Tibbs, in my opinion. But Brunson being worn down, Hart, OG, anyone else, Isaiah, yes, that is a very, very fair, I think, discussion with that had, right? But the Knicks simply just did not have enough depth, I think, to get that, man. And yeah, like Michael says, if we get more dogs like Alex Caruso, how about Grand Theft Alvarado, right? New York native, right? Via Puerto Rico, right? Jose Alvarado could be those kind of guys. Like, people will talk about TJ McConnell, right? Like trying to steal another guy's player who showed, some good things. I'm like, let's get our own TJ McConnell, right? Let's get some of these guys. We'll see what Rokas can look like. He's a little pit bull as well. He's a pesky, guard, a lefty. But yeah, man, if we could build on this Tibbs culture with like an Alvarado, those guys, Caruso, get that defense up, I think I'll be encouraged, man. I think Leon is going to extend Tibbs. He's going to reward him. and he's going to continue to build things around him, which is a big key. Obviously, you want a front office coach alignment as well, and that's where the organization, Leon Rose, I haven't got the graphic, but he gets a big swish for me as well. Now, as we talk more about the draft now and a free agency preview, and then that'll be our next show, man. We'll dive more into draft prospects and free agency. But to tie a bow on this season and next season, man, I want to bring up the words of Jalen Brunson again as we talk about Leon, Tibbs, and the organization, right? Brunson said for him, this season was not a success, right? And I want to hear your thoughts about whether it was or wasn't a success. If you're looking at it like, did we advance past the second round like last season? No, we didn't. And if you're a player like Brunson, I can understand how you don't think it's success because your number one goal is to win a championship. But it's not that simple. If you're looking at it from the organization, it can still be a success because there's multiple goals, right? You don't just have one goal. Yes, the biggest goal is winning that trophy, winning the Larry O'Brien, right? But the Knicks have things to do. They got roster to build. They got prospects to develop, right? They got foundations to put in place to help you get to a championship. And like I said before, look at the Milwaukee Bucks. They didn't just wake up one day and win a championship. That took a long process as well. That took playoff pain to get to where they were. Look at the Denver Nuggets. Well, they didn't just come out of nowhere and win a championship. That took years of team building and all of that. So while players like Jalen Brunson want it to happen ASAP, they want championship or bust, well, that's not how it goes for me. In a league where there's 30 teams, right? You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. It's not how it should be fully looked into as well. With that said, I think this season was a success for me. There was enough things that changed to say we are moving closer to a championship, right? Whether it's, what we saw from Donte DiVincenzo, the growth and the ability for him to play above his role, whether it was, the in-season move, OG Anunoby, Isaiah Hartenstein's growth as well. Of course, Julius Randle, like I said, in January, looked great. Deuce McBride, right, played better as a player and grew as well. So a lot of positives. Jalen Brunson showed that he can be an all-NBA player, first-time All-Star as well. All of those lessons that we failed at this season that we will learn from will help us win a championship as well. And you got to learn that. You got to go through that as well. And look, it's all part of it, man. The pain is a part of the success, the triumph as well. So look, I hope once Jalen Brunson has time to reflect on this season, he's not in the Olympics, thank God. He had successful surgery today, along with Bogey as well, which I forgot to mention. But glad that went great. Glad that he can now rest and focus on, his summer regime and workouts. But I hope that he looks at it like, hey, I did what I needed to do, but some of these other things have started to fall in the right place, right? So with that said, very, very disappointed we were not able to beat Indiana because we're a better team than them in terms of depth, talent, but we didn't have the guys available when needed, right? And they say your best ability is your availability. So if I'm saying this same thing next season, then it's Tibbs out, right? Best believe that. Right now, it's Tibbs swish because we're moving in the right direction. But if you're not learning from your mistakes, then what's the point, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? So moving forward to next season now and our off-season, man, right? The goal posts have moved. The expectations now have changed once again, right? After last season, it was like, okay, let's get top 4 finish again. Let's try to make more noise, get past the second round. But we didn't get past the second round, but we got within 9 wins of the Larry O'Brien. For me, next season, the goal should be win the East or finish top 3, first, second, or third, because third you avoid playing the number 1 seed until the final round, and then make the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, right? There should be no other goal less than that now. It's been 2 seasons of second round finishes, and I think that the Knicks' clear goal should be, we're in championship contention right now. So that's it, man. Jerry, what's up? Tibbs established a culture and identity. The Knicks are now relevant. Tibbs is the best coach since JVG. Yep, Swish. You said it. But whether it's him and Leon, they have to correct these things that didn't go right. They didn't go right. They need to correct it, fam. And yeah, I love some of these guys. TJ Mack, Tari Eason, Caruso, Alvarado. We'll talk about now how this team can be built now and what needs to go, what needs to be done. Like I said, that's why I've been a little more ruthless with Alec Burks being a dish. Precious Achiuwa, a dish as well. Remember, if you bring everybody back, there's no room to improve, right? You need to upgrade some of these spots, right? So can Bogey's salary and maybe Mitch's salary or one of them be used to bring in more guys? Yeah, definitely. Is Julius Randle's name going to be continued to link into talks? Yeah, I think until the Knicks sign him to that big extension, that'll continue, right? He's going into the final year of that deal. But out of all the other roster spots, Shake Milton, Jeffries, Decady, and also, the other 2 ways, Alec Burks, etc. Let's look at the draft and making some positional upgrades, fam. So, starting with Alec Burks, right? The 2 guard, that is the first major glaring need for me. You could throw Rokas Jokibiadis' name. That is something where those 2 might fit. They might not. Maybe Rokas comes, maybe he doesn't like it, maybe he doesn't look great. But what we know is that Rokas is going to come for Summer League. So that's good. That is a player that could potentially get on a cheap contract, who's young, and we've seen, some of his body of work, in Europe and formerly Summer League as well. He looks promising. But as a starting shooting guard in this league, we need an upgrade, right? We need someone who, whether it's DiVincenzo goes back to the bench and we upgrade him, or we find a real super backup for a DiVincenzo, right? Buddy Hield is a free agent. Malik Monk, I think, is a free agent. Miles Bridges, free agents as well. Again, we're gonna dive into all the free agent names in the next show. But firstly, that is the first glaring need for me, right? We have to upgrade a proper shooting guard, right? Hopefully 6'6", 6'5". One thing Alec Burks gives us is positional size as well. If he's open for the veteran min, I'd be okay with that as well. But again, you can't count on him to stay healthy because he's going to be 33, right? And again, I don't want to be left short next postseason as well. So we've got to fill out this roster, man. Got to hit up any guys that are willing to take a veteran's minimum who are really talented. I know that's going to be a difficult thing, but that's how you win a championship, man. It's literally the fine margins as well. As we saw with Denver, man, they were so deep that they had Bruce Brown still on their squad as well, and they had to let him go after winning the championship. So it's tough, man. So that is the first thing. And then obviously the 3, Bogey, do we use him and send him out? We move him along. Do we send him in a Mikal Bridges trade, which then pushes Josh Hart back to the bench, which is brilliant, which then Josh Hart becomes your backup 3, which is perfect, or your backup 2, etc., etc. So yeah, I'm expecting Josh Hart to not be a starting player next season. I think that's a fair estimation, right? I think it's more likely Donte remains a starting player, but I think it's fair to say that Josh Hart probably shouldn't be a starting player next season, because you're either bringing Randle back into the starting 5, an OG moves to the 3, or, again, you're trading Bogey and whatever other salary for another big upgrade, and you're pushing Josh Hart back to the bench no matter what. And then there's the backup power forward, fam. There's other spots in the draft, you know, a lot of prospects, man. This is a real wide open draft, and I think it's going to be something where the Knicks can definitely get positional needs now with size. We are mocked to a couple guys 6'10". Ryan Dunn, we're mocked to a guy, Bobby Clintman, who I know very well. I interviewed, who's playing pro ball in Australia. Bobby Clintman, you know, 6'10", those 3D kind of wings as well, which is something we really need. But yeah, I love TJ McConnell. What's up? Zach Eady says Gabby Butler as well. I agree. He would be nice if he slipped. But the Knicks could trade up as well. Picks 24 and 25. Let's get it. Maybe we can find the guy we need as well. Walt Perrin, you guys, I trust you as well. See, this is the Knicks wheelhouse. We found Quentin Grimes. We found Quickly. We found those guys with the later draft picks as well. And we have pick 38 as well in the second round as well. As M. Brown says about Tibbs, yeah, if he's not going to learn from these mistakes, then there's no point doing it. If we just continue to flame out and we don't have any bodies, then yeah, I think it's the definition of insanity. And as I prefaced before, I think some of the injuries weren't Tibbs, some of them were as well. So I think it's a nuanced, you know, discussion on that. But it could be really important, like Old Head says, to bring back your Burks and your Preciouses on veterans minimums, because at least they've been a part of this ride, and then they know what to expect next season as well. But I would only want to bring them back if they are third string, you know, or if they're veterans minimums, fam, as well, because we're really going to have to build this roster deep, right? We're going to have to need, you know, 2-3 at each position with good size as well. You know, and let Tibbs kind of, you know, let Tibbs be more, you know, cautious with minutes, hopefully. If you trade all those guys for a Devin Booker, you have to replace some of those guys. Yeah, that's the issue Phoenix have too. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, fam. I get it. I'm less inclined to want to just trade a lot of pieces for a big guy, which is why I think it's more wise to maybe look at your DeMar DeRozan, your, you know, Mikal Bridges, guys who are going to cost less, Jonas Valanciunas, you know, maybe a CJ McCollum if he became available. Just, you know, your below tiers. Because let's face it, we've already got Jalen Brunson. We've got Julius Randle. Right. We don't need to go too crazy and give up all the depth right now. We're seeing how weak Boston can look with just one injury. And if the Knicks were in it in the big dance this season, you never know, man. So we are closer than people think. And it's a big no for Donovan Mitchell. For me, I think Anthony Davis has issues staying healthy as well, but you can't doubt the talent as well. I'm not a big Karl Anthony Towns guy either, but we'll see what the front office thinks, man. I really do think, regardless of where you sit, obviously things will lie with Julius's future, with Bojan Bogdanovic, and with Mitchell Robinson's future as well. Those are the 3 highest paid kind of movable players, right? Because let's face it, Josh Hart's not getting moved. Donte DiVincenzo is not getting moved. Jalen Brunson is not getting moved, right? Could Isaiah Hartenstein be a sign and trade potential move? That could happen. But outside of those guys, it's Mitch, Bogey, and Julius Randle, whose futures might be, I think, the most uncertain, you know, if we're looking at team building as well. But if you could stack this team as currently constructed, keep all of them, and stack it with a Kelly Oubre, a Gordon Hayward on veterans minimum, Bruce Brown, veteran minimum or something, and just add more reliable talent, then I think that could be enough. I really think that could be enough to get you to the finals. And then obviously it's, you're in with a chance with that one, fam, as well. But let's not forget about the draft, man. It doesn't always need to be trades or free agency too. But the Knicks will have to free up roster spots. If we do select 3 of these picks, we're going to have to let some of these guys go, right? We're talking about Shake Milton, Daquan Jeffries, Diakite, Sims potentially as well. I think the Knicks haven't done that well at filling out the rest of their roster recently. We tend to really get sentimental, and it goes back to the Theo Pinsons, the Ryan Arcidiacono. Tibbs loves those kind of, he calls them practice players. I get it, because you know what it is? It makes a coach's life easier, right? Not that you guys may not already know, but if there's the worst kept secret, when Tibbs calls a player a practice player, it means they're no threat to steal anyone's minutes. They're no threat to take a spot. And as a fan, you don't want that. You want the opposite. You want these guys hungry for anyone's spot, right? And if you're trying to win a championship, you need to adjust your methods, right? Because we saw it in the playoffs, right? When you're down bodies, how do you get through it? You make sure that your Shake Miltons can play, your Daquan Jeffries, your Diakite. You make sure that more of those guys that can play, the better. And even in the regular season as well. And look, that's where I've really disagreed with the New York Knicks in recent history. I think we've wasted a lot of those two-way spots as well. We tend to rotate them for fun, man. One day we're signing Jarrell Martin, or Jalen Martin, sorry. Then the next day we're signing that European big, Skapensev, And then the next day you log on, they've waived him, and they're signing the Spurs big man that we gave up on as well. It's like it's a carousel. Either they're not finding or identifying the best kind of talent, or they're just doing people favors. They're doing their agents a favor by paying their guys a little bit and then getting them up out of there as well. What's up, John? Let's get it. Looking at the draft, hoping we can get Kel'el Ware, Ryan Dunn. I love those names as well. I'll talk about them a lot more in the next couple of shows as we look, ahead to the draft and what's popping. But yeah, the Knicks are in a great position, man. And I mean, if I haven't already said those exact words, I'll say it right now, man. The Knicks haven't been in this good of a position basically since, we're in the NBA Finals, right? Since 1994 or 1999. The Knicks haven't come this close, in my opinion, to winning a championship, because what we have is sustainable, right? Yes, in 97, we had bad luck and we got suspensions, and yes, 2000, 2001, we lost with to the Pacers, aging Patrick Ewing. That was kind of the end of the ride. But right now, it feels like the ride is just getting started, and what we do next is critical, to help us. Obviously, the NBA, the competition is going to continue to get better, man, but with good contracts right now, we are in a good position compared to many, many other teams, right? And we're saving all these draft picks, because that is what's going to be a lot, the factors in terms of, when these teams cap each other out and they go broke, basically, we're going to be the team with assets and be fluid. I think if I had to predict, I think we definitely make one draft pick this season, right? We moved on from, Quentin Grimes as well, who, as I briefly addressed before, man, I hope the best for nothing but the best for those former Knicks, Grimes, RJ quickly, some of the other guys as well. all of the guys as a part of the trades, right? The NBA is about fit, and if a team moves you on, it doesn't mean that they don't like you. That doesn't mean they don't believe in you. It could just be a business transaction. And also, a player needs to look at it like fit. If Jalen Brunson never finds his way to the New York Knicks, we're never talking about him the way we are, right? He'll still be Luka's sidekick, right? So it's all about fit, right? If Julius Randle never believed in himself to sign as a free agent with the New York Knicks, and choose that destination and lead a new team, right? Maybe people don't have the same respect to him as well. But I think we'll make at least one draft pick, maybe two. Maybe we package 24 or 25, we get up higher, and we make the 38th pick. One of the reasons to look out for in terms of, I can almost guarantee we'll make the 38th pick, because second round draft picks come with no guaranteed money, right? And that is absolute gold for teams trying to build, teams trying to come up with good trade assets, all of those things, man. Teams love to acquire a player with no guaranteed salary. And if it's the 38th draft selection, you can find a pretty decent player with that, most likely. And if you don't have to give them a guaranteed salary, then that's even better, fam. Of course, the first round draft picks come with guaranteed money. That is something that's going to have to be a factor as well. But Trey Alexander at the 38th pick looks good as well, fam. And what are your thoughts about Rokas as well? This could be a guy that we get on a minimum deal, but he's going to be more of like a first round pick, because he's played pro and he's been around for a minute. He's won a championship in Spain, and he's also developed his game a little more, which is big as well. That could be like getting a brand new asset with this squad. David says, let's draft another big, move on from Sims. Yeah, I like that. I think pick 38 could be good. Yeah, if we could get Zach Edey, that could be something we really look at as well, because he's got a game offensively as well, but he's really, really big. Bricks, yeah, we should be seeing Rokas in Summer League. Definitely look forward to that, man. Finally, we're going to get some Summer League hype, because there's going to be a rookie at least, you would think, from the draft, and there's going to be some of those guys, Rokas maybe. Brings me back to Summer League, man. See, one benefit of our season lasting this long, fam, we are 1 month away from talking about brand new players on the New York Knicks, right? This time in June, we're talking about the draft, and we've acquired either a trade or talent in just 4 more weeks from now, 5 more weeks. Do you guys remember the Summer League where we had Mitchell Robinson, we had Emmanuel Quickley, we had Obi Toppin, I think we had Kevin Knox. We were stacked on that team as well, man. Last Summer League, not so much, man. We had to watch Jalen Martin. We had to watch, Charlie Brown. It was not great, fam. But really looking forward to, the rest of the off-season too. This has been a great conversation talking about the season that was, man. I needed that few days to decompress, man. And even now, I don't feel that hyped talking about some of these names, because our team is that good. Back in the day, you couldn't wait to start to talk about which free agent that the Knicks are trying to get. And I'm still excited about, upgrading the roster and that, but the fact that everything's so set in stone now, and talking about these guys that we're building with, it doesn't have me as excited, because all these guys come with their own baggage. Nothing's perfect right now, right? If you're talking about Paul George, it's his age, it's his salary. If you're talking about Anthony Davis, it's his age, his health. If you're talking about Donovan Mitchell, it's talking about his fit, as well as who are you giving up. That's why I kind of look at more of a DeMar DeRozan, not the flashiest pickup, but that could be something that could be had for within the means of us and the team. Kelly Oubre, not sexy names, I know, but we are going to be spending a lot of money, and that is the big thing, man. A lot of these guys we've chosen already to move forward with now via the trade, via iHeart's extension, Brunson's extension. Look, Juju Randle, again, I give him his flowers, but there's two major disappointments from the season for me. Obviously, the playoff exit, however it happened, whatever round, it's always the number one disappointment. But for me, probably the second biggest disappointment of the season was not getting to see Julius Randle, beyond January and seeing what he looked like with the rest of the squad. We would have beaten Indiana. We would have beaten probably Philadelphia easier. And I would be battling Boston right now as well. So that for me is the second biggest disappointment, because now you've got more decisions to make and you have less, to go with, I think. But whether the organization just, rocks with Julius, I think they've probably already decided, I think, with that situation now. He's moved back to CAA. KP in the building, Summer League knocks hit different, man. Same with Mitchie, man. Mitchie looked like a he looked as light as Wemby. You look like a lighter version of Chet Holmgren. He was springy, he was jumping out, he was blocking threes. That Mitchie, man, he was a defensive, unicorn. Really, he's a different player now. Obviously, he's heavier, he's older, but yeah, that was some fun times, man. Maybe we move some of these picks to move to the future as well. And thank you for the reminder as well, as I'm gonna bring this baby up right now. Let me just bring up the New York Knicks future draft war chest right now, fam. As J Dub, welcome in, salute. Says, I feel we make the 24th pick made and the 25th pick traded for a future first as well. That's a great prediction because it reset it. It doesn't make us make the decision right now, and it resets it, as you said. But yeah, this season, 25th, 24th, via Dallas as well. Look, I tell you, Derek Lively would have been a great pickup for the Knicks last season, but look, Dallas did what they did, and they tanked. But the Knicks will have the Utah 38th pick. We sent what was going to be the 31st pick from Detroit. We sent that to the Raptors, fam, in the OG trade as well. So that was a very, very good asset. For all the people that are wondering why Toronto didn't acquire a first-round draft pick for OG, well, they acquired the next best thing, which is going to be the 31st pick with no guaranteed salary. So that is a very, very valuable pick. It's basically like a first-rounder as well, and then we go into the all the picks in the future, fam. The Knicks have their own in 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30, as well as all those protected picks. Detroit first next season is protected between 1 and 13. So basically, if Detroit are within the worst 13 teams, the Knicks won't get that pick as well, which that's a given. And then it'll move to the 26th year. The Detroit Pistons will keep their pick if they're within the worst 11 teams in the league. That's more than likely, right? 2027 is the year where you hope Detroit might not be within the worst 10 teams. And there's a real chance they might not, right? If Cade Cunningham, we saw what they can do. Jalen Duren, maybe that pick becomes a little more valuable. But still, there's going to have to be a lot of bad teams as well. The Washington one's a little more likely, by 2026 as well. That's 1 to 8 protected, but Washington's still probably going to be very, very bad. And then that pick will turn into a that'll turn into a Washington second as well, if we don't get it by 2027. But then you've got the Milwaukee one as well. And then, there's the Dallas second next season, which we will get. And that's what it is, fam. A lot of picks that we can move. And look, I think there is going to be some guys going. Not everyone can stick around for the ride. It's going to be a case of, what's available and what we can we get in. John says, I don't want to trade that pick. Definitely that one is going to hit different. Michael says we definitely need to go deeper in the bench. You said it. That's the key adjustment from Tom Thibodeau, right? Ease up on the minutes, right? I'm worried about Brunson moving forward. I really am, right? If, we don't want a foot injury to linger throughout the season, because that can turn into plantar, can turn into a fracture, can turn into something. But yeah, I don't see Zach Edey dropping that far as well, fam. But yeah, we need to get our scout on, because there is heaps of talent in terms of guys with size that can help this team off the bench, I think. Yes, it's not the deepest draft, but there is a case to be made of, if you're just the Knicks, and you've already got your Hart, you've already got Devo, you've got OG, you've got Deuce McBride, you've got your foundations already. Picks 24, 25, it could be an ideal position, to get you your 6'6" shooting guard. Maybe you can take a flyer on somebody with the 25th to 38th. We know centers tend to drop in the draft a little bit as well. Maybe there's some guys undrafted as well, right? Bronny James, fam, right? What would go through your mind if the Knicks announce with the 38th pick, they're picking Bronny James, man? And then, the LeBron noise is going to start to buzz after that, fam. Already some conspiracy theorists at it, talking about the reason the Knicks, Leon Rose and Rich Paul, Clutch Sports, buried the hatchet was because of something bigger, not because of your small moves like a DeJounte Murray and those kind of guys. There's a lot of conspiracy theorists right now, right? But I think wherever Bronny ends up might not dictate where LeBron goes. If he goes to the Spurs or something, I don't think LeBron's choosing San Antonio. But if Cleveland or someone picks up Bronny James, then yeah, I could see LeBron finishing back up, in Cleveland. Obviously, LA probably going to try to snap up Bronny James, do whatever they can to keep it buzzing as well. Buzzer says, I would only draft Bronny James to get LBJ. There's literally no other reason, fam. Not to throw shade at a young talent like Bronny. He's trying to, make a career for himself as well. But, he's not NBA ready, The scouts don't lie, right? The only reason he's getting that buzz right now is because of his pops as well. But not going to lie, I've never been the biggest LeBron guy. He didn't choose us. I respect his career more. That the longer it's gone on, I respect LeBron's career as well. But he's not the kind of guy that I really want the Knicks to win that championship with. But look, if it's for a year or two, and he wants to, add to his legacy, I get it. Because look, if you can't win 6 championships like Michael Jordan, winning a championship in New York City would change LeBron's legacy forever. He's won that one championship in LA. Obviously, he did it in his home in Cleveland. He's always flirted with the New York Knicks. But look, I really think that Leon and Rich Paul buried the hatchet for the long term, not for anything to do with LeBron, not for anything to do with with DeJounte Murray or any other current of his clients. I think it was more to do with just, okay, the New York Knicks are looking up. Rich Paul's a businessman. He knows that he's going to continue to represent more prospects, and a lot more guys around the league as well. No longer people can look at the Knicks like, oh man, they haven't got their stuff together, or LOL and all this stolen uncertainty. It's that's completely changed right now, man. And if you're a young kid growing up now, you're 6, 7, 8 years old, 9 years old. Those guys are going to live in the world where only the New York Knicks are good. You know what I mean? And look, the Knicks are going to have a whole new, era of fans come on board now as well. The bandwagon is going to continue to grow. Bronny is G League, 100% buzzer. Bronny James, he'll stay in college realistically, man. I mean, the NIL money he's going to make would be insane. But my heart does go out to Bronny though, because when you're LeBron's son, you're just never gonna be looked at like differently. You're not gonna have your own identity. I've talked to my friends about that. When LeBron had him, I think he said something like, I want my son Bronny to have his own legacy, and then he calls him Bronny James Jr. You know what I mean? Michael says we need to acquire more top talent. Hey, that wouldn't hurt, man. I don't think there's one specific way to build a winner, but I do think that the Knicks could do with both. I think, I think getting a guy like a DeMar DeRozan, potentially, who you can throw the ball to, clutch player, a clutch scorer, right? He's going to create headaches for the defense, right? If he was next to Jalen Brunson, like that, what's going to happen, against Indiana. But obviously defensively, we have to continue to get better as well. Fam, I think defensively, we were pretty good throughout the most of the season. I can't really criticize so much. The reason we were poor defensively later, I think, was just because Indiana just was a bad matchup in terms of speed, right at our most vulnerable position. When it comes to, in the second round, when you're gassed, the worst matchup you can possibly have is a team that has a lot of depth and a team that likes to run, man. If the Knicks faced Milwaukee in the second round, as banged up as we were, we still might have had a better chance of beating Milwaukee, right? Indiana was just peaking, I think, at the right time. But now that I've sort of, dealt with some of the disappointment and the pain, I'm starting to look at it like the Knicks have got lessons that they can learn from what failed, right? See, when you don't win a championship, obviously it's a bust from that perspective, but you fell short and you should learn from some of the reasons why, and you should correct those and make them better. And like you said, we could do with a lot more talent. We could do with a lot more depth as well. And also, Coach Tibbs, man, has to learn, or Leon Rose has to really pull him aside now and focus on maintaining the health of these guys regular season now. The fact that we are deeper now wouldn't bother me if we finish 4th next season, right? Barring circumstances, because if anything, it's shown, with Indiana, it don't really matter where you finish in the standings, right? Right. I know they faced the Bucks and the Knicks that were both banged up. That they got lucky. Normally, a 6 seed doesn't get so lucky. I get that. The second seed is normally a full juggernaut. When fully healthy, tough to beat. But yeah, they just got lucky. But in terms of your ability to advance wherever you finish, that's never been more true. Look at Miami last season; they finished 8th. They made it all the way to the finals, man. Seeding is important, but it's second to health. If you catch a break and you're healthy, the other teams are not, you're going to beat them. Right? It don't matter if you're 8th, 7th, 6th. And now that's 2 years in a row in the East where the 8th seed and the 6th seed has made the Eastern Conference Finals. So, yeah, that, like I said, I'm not worried next year if the Knicks finish in the, in the 4th or whatever it is, barring circumstance, Yes, I was hyped to get the 2nd seed, but, I mean, now that it shows, what good is the 2nd seed, man, if you ain't healthy? That is something, man. But yeah, appreciate you guys for rocking out with us, man. 3-hour stream, man. This has been my longest stream for a minute, but the grind of the regular season, and I'm not going to lie, man, it was a grind. Games every other day, chopping up how we won, how we lost. There's nothing like a bit of a break to clear your mind, reset the focus and look at the goals, and I think, now that Brunson's had surgery today, he's been second team All-NBA. OG's, hitting up Deuce McBride on his Instagram. These guys missing each other a bit. I think, it's all going to come together, man. This summer is going to be big. I expect these guys to probably have a couple week break, get back to the facility as well, start working out. I think that's going to fuel them, to get further with that one, man. Let's get it. Who else? Let me know other names that you guys would be interested in. We'll save this a lot more for the next show, but let's just go down the list right now of NBA free agents, either restricted or unrestricted, and see if anything catches your eye, fam, as well. Starting with an A, top of the list, is our own Precious Achiuwa coming in, man. His 3-year deal is expired. His 3-year experience. He's a restricted free agent. Right. So the Knicks can go over the cap. But does another team give him an offer sheet? Right, we'll see. I could expect the team might give Precious an offer sheet. And I don't think we'll match it, fam. Here's a guy I'm interested in, man. Jose Grand Theft Alvarado, man. Talk about our own TJ McConnell. New York City own via Puerto Rico. Gritty. Defensively. Knows all about winning. Tom Thibodeau, man. Would love this guy. Jose Alvarado is a restricted free agent. I don't think New Orleans are going to let him go, though. But, man, he's that culture fit that would really add to this team, no doubt about it, man. He's basically another Deuce McBride in clone, maybe with less offensive skills. Now, we've got Kyle Anderson, slow-mo. He's an unrestricted free agent as well. Right, he could be a solid wing with a little extra size. Minnesota could get cheap with that one. It's fascinating. There's more free agents than I really thought. Yes, there's not your real top names, but there's plenty of names out there, man. Lonzo Ball, definitely Tibbs would end his career, man. He's struggling to stay healthy right now. We've got Mo, Harlem's own, Mo Bamba. Bounced around the league. He wasn't even a factor in the Philly series, man. I feel for him. I don't know what happened, man. Do you guys know what happened with Mo Bamba? Was he just fallen out of favor with Coach Nurse? Was it the fact that they have the depth of Joel Embiid and Paul Reed? Look, could he find a fresh start, a better fit, veterans minimum, bring him in? I'd be open to that. But he hasn't set the world on fire, man. So not holding my breath, fam. Buzzer says, can Alvarado play the point guard offensively? Yeah, he can be a change of pace guy. He can back up, come off the bench, speed it up. He's a little undersized to play the 2, but yeah, I think he could play alongside Deuce McBride because Deuce can guard 2s. But in terms of your question offensively, I don't think, he's not he's not coming in with any specific special skill set either with that, fam. But with our super chat coming in from Buzzer Beater as well, man, I appreciate you. Let's go Knicks. What a season, and appreciate your support. Thanks for hosting this extended stream. Go Knicks. You said it. You said it, fam, as well. What are you guys going to think is going to happen with Brooklyn? Right, they've definitely got to make some shake-up because, you know, Mikal Bridges isn't feeling what's happening out there. They need to reset the culture. They've got no culture, really, but they need to reset what's happening because nobody wants to stay, right? I've heard Delano Banton's name bantied about. He's restricted. Keita Bates-Diop could be a guy had from Brooklyn, right? Nicholas Batum, little on the old side for me. I think he had contemplated retirement as well, but he said he might play for another 2 years, maybe one more year. Davis Bertans finally coming off that albatross contract. Now he's an unrestricted free agent. No one's going to give up, I don't think, anything substantial for him. But if he's willing to sign for a veteran's minimum, could that guy be a bench, stretch four? David says Brooklyn can't attract free agents. You said it. You said that, man. Michael says, hell yeah to Alvarado. I echo that, man. Hell yeah. We'll see, man. Some of these small market teams are going to start to get capped out, which is why you're probably going to hear a lot of talk about Brandon Ingram and Zion. I haven't put their graphics up, but look, I'm not super high on Brandon Ingram anymore, but would he be a talent? Yeah. Would he be a talent upgrade? He's going to ask for too much, though, I think. Patrick Beverley would be a no for me. The culture would be an issue with all these off-court baggage. Sadiq Bey, restricted free agent as well. That'd be something I'd be keen. Goga Batadze, right? Shown to be a bit of a clown sometimes, but he is a guy who I think is an NBA talent at the center position. Good depth piece. Maybe Bismack Biyombo, veterans minimum. Bol, veterans minimum. These guys, Mikal Bridges, unrestricted free agent, fam. Seems to have sorted out some of the off-court stuff, but yeah, I think his list of suitors will be very, very small. Bruce Brown, like we talked about, man. Moses Brown, we had, I think, in our building. Like Dirty Dancer said before as well, I think Bruce Brown could be a very likely fit. There seems to be a lot of links. Old friend Reggie Bullock. Alec Burks, of course, unrestricted. Veterans minimum, possibly. Contavious Caldwell Pope. I don't think we'll have the money to pry him away, but unrestricted. Very, very interesting, fam. If you're talking about Bojan Bogdanovic and maybe, not high on keeping him long term, KCP, could a trade happen? Those are the kind of guys that Tibbs would be down for, 100%. Alex Caruso as well. Max Christie, the Lakers will try to keep him. Nick Claxton is going to be a huge unrestricted free agent as well. I think he's going to leave Brooklyn. And I think that we won't be able to pay, he's going to get a decent salary, right? Probably in the range of a Bogdanovic, 20 plus. Rocco, he was good in his day, but he's past it now, is Robert Covington. Torrey Craig. You see, Chicago could be a good team to look out for as well. Torrey Craig fits the mold as a veteran. Would he come on a veteran's minimum? 33 years of age. He's got good positional size, defense on the perimeter. Jay Crowder would be no for me. And we've got DeRozan, of course. I think he could fit into Bogdanovic's salary quite well. Spencer Dinwiddie as well as an unrestricted free agent. It'd be a no for me. Andre Drummond, fam, as well. So that is the latest, fam. What takes your eye with that one? Obviously, Klay Thompson, another big name out there. For me, Klay in his day, but now I think we're looking ahead for the future with that one, man. David says KCP valid. So get on my level as well. Agrees. KCP. It's funny how we agree more now that we know the vision, you know. I think one of the reasons this season was another success is, we know what fits the mold, you know. Who's gonna ride or die with Devo, Hart, Brunson, Tibbs, these guys, Deuce McBride, right? If you ain't with them, if you don't fit the mold, you're not going to be on this squad. You know, we're not going to be signing guys like Lonzo Ball. Now, we're not going to be signing dudes like, dudes that aren't going to, get gritty or stay, play as hard as possible. So that, that is the situation. Sadiq Bey, those guys. Adrian Griffin, the third as well. I think Adrian Griffin, is that dude that CAA as well. The Knicks were looking to draft him. That could be something else to look out for as well, fam. But, man, we've covered quite a lot and look forward to diving in more to these free agent talks, looking at the cap situation in the next show. We'll be talking about draft prospects as well, and we'll be getting some guests on as well to talk about the draft for those and talk about these prospects, right? But yeah, the off season's going to be shorter, fam, because we are closer to June, the draft next month, new players coming in, summer league, start of July as well, man. This season's going to turn around real quick right now, and that's great because I know we're all hurting still. You know, it's been that case of, man, did the season really end the way it did? You know, did the season really happen the way it did? It's just been, an unbelievable last 7-8 months, for this team. But hey, man, like I said, the only way is up from here as well. We've got a budding superstar in his prime. We've got help on the way with Julius back. Let me know with the Dish and Swish which players you are here for the Swish or you think are down for the Dish, right? And with that said, man, we'll get ready to wrap this thing up. We haven't got a definitive guest schedule sorted, fam, but as soon as I do, I'll let you know as well. The biggest thing is the scheduling. That's the biggest challenge, talking to people and lining up, the times versus, when they can record versus live stream, etc. and all of that. But I want to focus a lot more on the draft because that is the very next thing. Free agency will happen after that, fam, as well. But we're in a great position. 3 draft picks. Guys are getting their rest now, fam. I hope you're all doing great. Getting rest as well. It's been a grind, man, on the heart, on the mind. But look forward to the next show. It'll be maybe the day after tomorrow. So let's do this on let's do this on Friday, fam. Yeah, let's do the next show Friday night. We'll keep the Friday night Knicks buzz going, fam, and we'll do 7:30, 8 p.m. on our Friday night as well. If you can join us, appreciate it. If not, replay squad. That's all great with me. Once again, appreciate you guys. Let's get it on the next one, fam. New York Knicks, we here. New York or nowhere. Peace.